NXT Takeover, what many, myself included, consider the best professional wrestling events of the year. These shows, they're jam-packed from top to bottom of just the greatest matches of the year, primarily. These shows in 2018, 2019 have literally given us some of the best wrestling shows we've ever seen. In the early days, 2014 through 2016, most of them were more so one-match cards, and I'll get into them very shortly. So basically, today's video, what we'll be looking at, NXT Takeover, from the first show through to the 27th show that they've just recently done at WarGames. I'll just look at all of them, talk about each individual one, my memories from them. It's not going to be an in-depth review of each show. There's no point in doing that. This is very much a commentary inspired by Good Mic Work, who did the WrestleMania and SummerSlam ones. This one's going to be an NXT TakeOver one, just to give a bit of a fresh spin, something a bit different, something that hopefully you guys will enjoy. It's probably going to be a pretty long one, because I'm talking about all 27 takeovers in this video. Pretty much the first, everything up to maybe 2017, I'm not going to really go into so much detail. Like, I'll talk enough about each one, but 2018, 2019, you can get, a lot of attention each, because all those shows are so jam-packed full of great matches. But nevertheless, we'll get into it very shortly. I just wanted to say that, coming up on the channel, we're going to keep up the reviews after every show, so AEW, NXT, Raw, SmackDown, you'll get those videos every week. I'm looking at doing, additional content, maybe 2 to 3 or maybe 4, additional videos a week of just, wrestling content that I enjoy, I want to make. So, yeah, I want to try and get between 7 and 9 videos per week, so now I've got that out of the way, get into NXT TakeOver. Now, NXT TakeOver, as Mauro Ranallo says, is the gold standard for professional wrestling in North America. It's just the absolute best pro wrestling you'll see. These shows, they started at humble beginnings. Now, NXT, we all know how it began. Back in 2010, they replaced ECW, which was 2009, 2010 ECW was just dire. Back with Sheamus and who else was on ECW that time? Christian, Ezekiel Jackson, Mark Henry, Matt Hardy. That ECW crew. Jeez, so we went from there. It became NXT. They did the infamous first season of NXT with, Wade Barrett, Gabriel, Daniel Bryan, all those guys. Had the pros, the pros and the rookies system, which was it just didn't work. That was, they ended up doing that for 5 seasons, I believe. It just kept going and going. The one with the women's one was just terrible. The seasons they do, I think season 4 was really bad as well. They couldn't realize that this Wednesday night gimmick of NXT, it just wasn't working. Having the pros and the rookies, and they do these just goofy challenges, like the one with Titus O'Neil, I believe that was season 2, where he grabbed the barrel and he was running around, then he fell over and he became a meme for the rest of eternity. That kind of stuff is what people remember from NXT before it was taken over by Triple H at Full Sail. So it was just, NXT back in the original days was just bad, and all we got of note from NXT in those first 2 years, where it was just it was its own TV show, was the Nexus angle, which came from the season 1 rookies. So that was NXT before it got taken over in 2012. 2012, they took over from the OVW type deal, the Florida Championship Wrestling, the developmental territory. They really took it over from that. It became NXT, got rebranded. It became the real developmental program. Now, NXT this time, it was Triple H, it was Dusty Rhodes, it was very much a visionary type deal. It was the very ground roots, the foundation point for what we'd later see in these last few years. NXT this time, you had guys like Seth Rollins. He was the first ever NXT champion. He carried the brand for a while. He was the main guy for NXT in this time period, which was cool to see. So they had Rollins in that position. He was the first ever NXT champion. He ended up defeating Jinder Mahal in June or July of 2012 to become the first ever NXT champion. So I thought that was pretty good what they did with that. So from here, NXT, it was very much just, it was, you couldn't even watch it on the WWE network because the network wasn't even around then. It was very indie, very developmental, very just, undercover. No one really talks about it. You're aware this stuff happens, but it's not made mainstream, any of these matches. So from here, they had Rollins. He carried the NXT Championship for 133 days after that win on July 26, 2012. Rollins carried the title, and then they would have Big E Langston. So Big E won the NXT Championship December 6, 2012. He carried the title for 160 odd days. And then you had Bo Dallas winning on May 23rd, 2013. And from here, this is where really the NXT takeovers and like all the NXT Live Specials really come into play. So basically, that's NXT 2012 and 2013. Very indie, very developmental, very much like OVW, FCW, that type of thing. And then NXT put on NXT ArRival. Now, while this isn't an actual NXT takeover, it's incredibly significant for what laying the groundwork for what we'd see in years to come. NXT Takeover ArRival, as a show, it was filled with just matches which, like as I said, it just lays the groundwork, these matches. So the NXT ArRival, I'll talk about this briefly. The opening match was flawless. Cesaro, Sami Zayn. That was the perfect match to open the NXT Live Specials. Because at the time, the WWE Network was extremely new. I think it was like a couple of days old when they put this show on. And boy, did this show deliver. This was a great show to watch. Basically, like with most takeovers, as we'll talk about in the next few minutes, this is very much like a one-match show, and then there'd be like another couple of good matches. Like, it wasn't like four-star matches like we'd seen in latter years. This one, Cesaro, Sami Zayn opened the show. Those two have incredible in-ring chemistry. It was just excellent. 22 minutes, 55 seconds for that match. Just so great. Those two guys, Cesaro and Zayn, they told a great story that night. The crowd was hot for that opener at NXT ArRival. And then the rest of the show, Paige defeated Emma by submission to retain the NXT Women's Championship. Tyler Breeze and Xavier Woods had a no contest, like a draw. And then the main event, Adrian Neville defeated Bo Dallas to win the NXT Championship in a ladder match. That match wasn't overly special, but very significant in the context of NXT, because let's get into NXT takeovers. In 2014, Adrian Neville, he was the NXT champion. He was the one who really led the brand. He took NXT as the champion through these initial takeovers, and was like the standard bearer for the company in 2014, or the brand in NXT. So Adrian Neville, I think, years in advance, we underestimate how much he actually did for NXT, because in this time period, the growth was tremendous in 2014. With the addition of the WWE Network, we can now watch NXT weekly, easily, and it became a real mainstream deal. Back when takeovers were taking place only at Full Sail University, back when the NXT Championship was still in its dormant stages, it was just growing. The brand of NXT itself, the talent there, it was primarily Adrian Neville, Sami Zayn, Tyler Breeze, Tyson Kidd was in around the championship mark at this time. It was the Ascension, it was Paige, it was Emma, it was Xavier Woods, those type of guys and girls. It was really just those guys and girls carried the brand. So from here we move into the first ever NXT Takeover. This show, simply titled NXT Takeover, took place May 29th, 2014 in Full Sail University. First match of this show, Adam Rose against Camacho. So, not really the match most people remember for an NXT TakeOver show. These guys got 5 minutes. Basically, this match, nothing really special to open. Nothing compared to that NXT ArRival opener with Cesaro and Sami Zayn, but it's a starting point nevertheless. Adam Rose and Camacho, both these guys didn't amount to anything, but, we opened the show somehow. So then we got the NXT Tag Team Championships, the Ascension, who are, they're another team, another, pairing. Basically, these guys dominated NXT as a tag team in 2014, and then got to the main roster and nothing happened. And we'll see that later on aplenty throughout 2014, 15, 16, 17, how the guys who dominate NXT, and the girls as well, they'll dominate and get up to NXT, get up to the main roster, it's a demotion realistically, but they go to the main roster and then their careers are never the same, they're not booked nearly as well, not nearly as credible, so, basically, we have the Ascension retaining the Tag Team Championships. Then we got Tyler Breeze defeating Sami Zayn to become the number one contender of the NXT Championship. This was the thing with this, which I'll talk about even more as the takeovers go on for 2014. The real story of 2014 was Sami Zayn. Now, Zayn, he just, in my eyes, when I look at these matches, Zayn was the Johnny Gargano before Johnny Gargano as far as NXT goes. He was the real underdog, babyface, the guy who he wouldn't win the big takeovers, but then when he finally did, it was an incredible moment. So here, so he lost at ArRival to Cesaro. Here at NXT TakeOver, the first one, he loses to Tyler Breeze. So already 2 losses for Sami Zayn. The match I remember being pretty good, nothing outstanding. It went 16 minutes. It wasn't super special, but just laying the groundwork for this Sami Zayn story of him being just the real underdog favorite in the company. So I thought that was great. And then you had Charlotte defeating Natalya to become the new NXT Women's Champion, so the title was vacant. I thought what they did was excellent. They had Charlotte Flair versus Natalya Neidhart. They had Ric Flair in Charlotte's corner. Natalya had Bret Hart in her corner. The way they did this was really cool, and it was probably the best Charlotte and Natalya match they ever did. It felt really special how they did it, and the first of many great NXT women's matches at Takeovers. So yeah, this match was just, I remember this fondly. These girls went out and killed it. Charlotte, Natalya, it clicked, got 17 minutes, it was really good. And then the main event for this takeover, Adrian Neville retaining his NXT Championship over Tyson Kidd. This one, just Adrian Neville getting a title defense successfully under the belt. This Tyson Kidd, it was never really going to be the NXT Champion. He was more so there as kind of like a placeholder to fill up a takeover. Because at the time with NXT, you didn't have that many like super credible names in the company. It was really about building talent up. Because it really was developmental this time. It wasn't like a third brand. It was really developmental in 2014. So, having Tyson Kidd put over Adrian Neville, really building up Adrian Neville as a credible champion, which is something that made what happened at ArRival seem so special. So, yeah, that's NXT TakeOver, the first one. I thought the show, it was fine. I mean, had some good matches, 5-match card, as we'd see later on in many years. So, 5-match card, alright, some good matches, nothing incredible, if nothing really to see there. So, that was the first ever NXT TakeOver. Then we move on to the second ever NXT TakeOver. NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. Now, you talk about a 1-match card. This personified that. This took place September 11th, 2014 from Full Sail University. This show, this was a 6-match card, interestingly enough. And, well, I mean, 2 of the matches went for like less than a minute and 15 seconds. So, can you really count that as 6 matches? But still, this show, personally, I remember this show for 2 things. It was the Lucha Dragons, Kalisto and Sin Cara, defeating the Ascension to win the Tag Team Championships. It felt reasonably significant at the time. The Lucha Dragons, they were really trying to push these guys, and they had so much promise, the Lucha Dragons. They were so over with the, Lucha, that kind of thing. So Kalisto, Sin Cara, Kalisto especially, for Kalisto, he was the real breakout kind of star in that team. Sin Cara, we'd been there, done that with him. They had the 2011 stuff on the main roster with Sin Cara versus Sin Cara, which, I remember, the Hell in a Cell show, I just remember hating that, because they did, the dark lighting, and you couldn't barely tell what was happening. And then, Sin Cara botched at Survivor Series, he botched walking, and then, broke his shoulder, I think. So, Sin Cara didn't really care for, but Kalisto made me like the Lucha Dragons. They beat the Ascension here in an 8-minute open to win the tag titles. That felt significant, because in NXT, the title changes usually always feel significant. They don't just have these meaningless titles, all the titles have meaning, so I like that. And then the rest of this show was, literally, I'm looking back at this card now, just the next 3 matches. Baron Corbin beats CJ Parker. We have Enzo Amore beating Sylvester Lafort, and then Bull Dempsey beats Mojo Rawley. So those 3 matches, it's essentially just an NXT TV taping. That's not takeover worthy. You look at the present day takeovers compared to this. Baron Corbin, CJ Parker, Bull Dempsey, Mojo Rawley, Enzo Amore, Sylvester Lafort. Honestly, the only one out of those 6 men who've gone anywhere is Baron Corbin, and everyone hates him. As in, get off my TV hatred. So no one likes Baron Corbin, and that's what we have to deal with there. So from here, we move on. Basically, Charlotte and Bayley, they had their match for the NXT Women's Championship. I thought this match was really good. Charlotte and Bayley, we'd go on to see these women have many matches on the main roster. In NXT here, got 10 minutes. It was probably your 3.5 star match, really entertaining. Charlotte, they were really putting her over. Charlotte Flair in NXT 2014. By this point, she was really kind of you could tell she was going to go places on the main roster. Just, I think this time she had brown hair. It was completely different Charlotte to what we see nowadays, where she had 14 plastic surgeries and looks nothing like herself. So that was interesting. Bayley, her first takeover match here. Good to see her getting on the card, and she'd go on to have many a great takeover match. And then the main event, this match and the show in general, it was a 1-match show. It was the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Championship. They basically tossed all their 4 main eventers into the match. Adrian Neville defending his championship against Tyson Kidd, Tyler Breeze, and Sami Zayn. It went for 24 minutes, 25 minutes. What they did here, it was basically a 3rd consecutive takeover loss, NXT Live Special loss for Sami Zayn, really emphasizing that, Zayn can't win the big one. He's 0-3 in these big matches. He keeps making mistakes. Breeze and Kid were just there to kind of add to the match to make it a bit more entertaining. The match was pretty good, wasn't incredible by any means. Probably the second best match they've done at NXT Takeovers up to this point, or NXT Live Special, sorry. The best match was Cesaro, Sami Zayn in the first one. This, pretty good match. Adrian Neville retains the championship, so he gets another retention under his belt. So at this point, he's held the title 7 months, ever since he won it at ArRival. So this, pretty good match. I'll just move on to the next show. This one, I remember this so fondly. NXT Takeover I Revolution. This show, well, very significant show for NXT. Very, very, very significant. So this show, from top to bottom, plenty of important stuff happened in this show. Basically, in my eyes, the first really significant NXT takeover as far as what happened on the show. We got the debut of Kevin Owens in the opener. You know, he beat CJ Parker, but that's not the point. Like, we got Kevin Owens making his NXT debut. So that was really, really good. And then the Lucha Dragons retained against the Vaudevillains, Aiden English and Simon Gotch. Back when they felt remotely important, now they're just long gone. But yeah, so the Tag Team Championships, that wasn't super important, but it was a good little match. Then Baron Corbin beat Ty Dillinger. Yeah, don't really care. Baron Corbin had plenty of these takeover matches where he just kind of like win against like a nobody, but like doesn't really matter. Then we got Finn Balor and Hideo Itami beating the Ascension. Balor and Hideo Itami, they were very fresh signings from Japan. Finn Balor, aka Prince Devitt, and then Hideo Itami or Kenta. These two guys are star signings. They teamed them up. As we'll go on to talk about, it's unfortunate what happened to Hideo Itami or Kenta in NXT. It was just, he had so much promise and didn't turn out to be like anything really, so that was underwhelming. Then we rolled on with the show. Charlotte and Sasha Banks had a match in the NXT Women's Championship. Charlotte going over, so her reign extends through 8 months at this point. This match I remember being pretty good. Sasha Banks, her first takeover match, really just getting the Charlotte's title retentions going. Sasha Banks, this was like her first takeover match, really put her on the show. Put the spotlight on her. So that was really good. And then the main event. This was special. The way this was booked, I remember where I was during this match. I remember loving watching this. Sami Zayn, but challenging Adrian Neville for the NXT Championship. As I've established at this point, Adrian Neville, he's held the NXT Championship since ArRival. He's held the title literally like 10 months. He's had a real stranglehold in this title. Adrian Neville, he felt incredibly legitimate in NXT. Very credible, did Neville, so it was great to see that. Adrian Neville, lots of legitimacy behind him here, which is great to see. That's the thing with NXT. The NXT champion always feels legitimate, which I love, so Neville felt very legitimate. He comes into this match against Sami Zayn, who, as I've established now, he's 0-3 at takeovers. This would be his 4th match. He put the stipulation forward himself that if he lost, he would have voluntarily left NXT. Because there's just no point. If you can't win these big matches, why bother? So I remember going into this match, I thought if Zayn loses, he'll probably leave and then come back as El Generico. That's what I thought they'd do. Didn't end up happening, and what they ended up doing, I loved. Basically, Sami Zayn, they had Zayn. He went into this match. The crowd was so into him. It was Full Sail University. The show took place on December 11th. This was just, basically, the match itself was just class. These two guys, the storytelling involved, the moves, having Zayn, like everything he did, you hold your breath because you didn't want him to make a mistake and lose the match. In the end, they did the stuff where Zayn, the referee got knocked down and Zayn, he had the title belt, like would he use it, would he not? In the end, Zayn, he used the hell of a kick. Like that ending they had where Neville was like in the corner, he's like out of it, Zayn's in the opposite corner. Zayn had that incensed look in his eyes, sprints across the ring, haluva kick, 1, 2, 3. Sami Zayn wins the NXT Championship. By far the biggest moment in NXT up to this point. This match was it was match of the year candidate. It was an excellent match. 4.5, 4.75 stars. Just the work these two men did that night. The dethroning, it's not even a word, but Neville being dethroned. It felt like such a special moment because what they did to build up Neville throughout this year. Neville's match at Takeover against Tyson Kidd. The Fatal 4-Way match where he retained. So you got to this match. Neville was a real credible champion. Sami Zayn dethroned him. So Sami Zayn went to carry the torch of NXT from there. They did the big, the celebration afterwards where all the NXT guys like hugging Zayn, really emotional. Zayn's big moment. Finally wins the big one, which like it gives you kind of, like when you think about that in 2014, then what we got with Johnny Gargano in 2019, like the similarities are stark. So Sami Zayn wins, and then they did the big angle afterwards. Sami Zayn, after like literally 7 minutes of celebrating, he's walking up the aisleway. Kevin Owens, his best friend, that he puts his arm around him. It's Kevin Owens' first night in NXT. I mentioned his win in the opener of the show. Owens puts his arm around Zayn. Remember, Owens' nose, did he break it or something? It got damaged in that match with CJ Parker, so he had not stitches, but he had his nose kind of stapled up because of blood pouring from his nose earlier in the night. But yeah, so Owens, he's walking with Zayn, arm around Zayn, and then Owens gets Zayn by the throat, tosses him on the ground. The shocking heel turn to end NXT, NXT Takeover I Revolution. Owens puts Zayn, between his legs and does the pop-up powerbomb on the apron, which looked brutal. That looked just sensational. So Owens storms off, and from here NXT, really from that moment, I thought NXT, it took a step up. That was the first really captivating storyline in NXT, featuring independent guys who you actually really cared to see. So I felt like that was an incredibly big moment for NXT. Having Zayn, having Owens, Zayn beat Neville, and then Zayn gets taken out by Owens, the big heel turn, heel Kevin Owens, face Sami Zayn. It was really just the first great rivalry in NXT, those two. Fair enough, the matches, as I'll go on to talk about, weren't the best, but what they did from a storytelling perspective and a captivation point of view was just excellent. It really made you want to watch NXT week after week, which is something that, as we see now in 2020, it's really, that's more so than ever. What you want to watch NXT every week, so that's NXT Takeover I Revolution. That got plenty of discussion time. It certainly deserved it. It was just an excellent takeover show. Really did a great job laying the groundwork for what we see nowadays. So we roll on. We move into 2015 now. February 11th, 2015, NXT Takeover Rival. Now, from a matches point of view, this show wasn't the absolute greatest, just because of how they kind of book these matches, but when you look at the card in hindsight, there are lots of, you can just see NXT starting to, come together with this, the stars and the talent, the main event picture, the women's division, the tag teams. It was all starting to improve, starting to get better, starting to take those, positive, necessary steps forward in the growth of NXT. So, for example, we open the show, Hideo Itami against Tyler Breeze, which, granted, the match wasn't amazing, but Hideo Itami getting a win here, building up Kenta in NXT, so that was good to see. Tyler Breeze, by this point, he was, not that he was on his way out, but his time as a main eventer in NXT was done. 2014 was the year of Tyler Breeze as a main eventer in NXT. 2015, he was more so just kind of not a jobber, but he was a mid-carder, more of an enhancement talent for the main eventers for 2015. So we got that there. Baron Corbin beat Bull Dempsey, don't care. Blake and Murphy defeated the Lucha Dragons. So yeah, Blake and Murphy. It's interesting to see Buddy Murphy in a tag team with Wesley Blake. Now we have Wesley Blake teaming with Steve Cutler and the Forgotten Sons. So Wesley Blake, he's been around NXT in the tag team picture for literally 6-7 years now. He's just a tag team wrestler for life. Buddy Murphy, he's currently on Raw. We all know what's happening with Buddy Murphy. Everyone's just saying, and me too, he should be doing so much better. But instead, he's just in this meaningless mid-card program with Aleister Black. So, that's what's happening there. Lucha Dragons, by this point, they were basically on their way out of NXT. They'd done it all. They had the tag team championships for 5 months. Time for them to move on. And then, this show, these last 3 matches, so the opener with Hideo Itami, Tyler Breeze, two notable talents. Then the last 3 matches. Finn Balor defeated Adrian Neville to become the number 1 contender of the NXT Championship. This was interesting to me because Finn Balor, so as I mentioned, he had the tag team match with Hideo Itami at the last NXT Takeover, so I Revolution. Here we get to February 2015. He's beating Adrian Neville, so Neville, he's had his really time in the spotlight for NXT in 2014. He's now beginning to go on his way down. Lost the match at I Revolution, lost the match here. So Neville, he's really transitioning off to the main roster at this point. Come early 2015, this was Neville going to Raw and SmackDown. So Neville was on his way out. He was taking the losses in the main eventers because he was still credible. Finn Balor really ascending up the ranks of NXT. Meanwhile, you had the Fatal 4-Way for NXT Women's Championship. This I found very interesting because this was just all 4 of the main 4 horsewomen in the Fatal 4-Way match. Sasha Banks, Charlotte, Bayley, and Becky Lynch just all going at it. Charlotte was still the champion coming in. She wouldn't be the champion after the match though. Sasha Banks got the win. This match, it was good, but wasn't great. It went for 12 minutes. Didn't get enough time. These women, you could see really the groundwork for what they were building with this women's division. This is NXT kind of quartet of female superstars. Sasha, Charlotte, Bayley, Becky. They'd go on to just carry the main roster for the rest of this decade after they finish in NXT. So more on those women later. But yeah, so Charlotte getting dethroned here was interesting. Basically, this is around the time period 2015. I think I'll talk about this a bit more after the next takeover or two. But 2015, they're really trying to push this women's revolution, the evolution, the Stephanie McMahon coming out, so more on that later. And then the main event, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn NXT Championship. This I remember being so excited for. This was Kevin Steen, El Generico. Now they're fighting NXT, Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. This, I thought it should have been much better than it was. Like, it was good. I'd say, from memory, it was like a 4-star match. Just how they did the booking, where they did the referee stoppage for the finish. So pretty much Owens just beat Zayn senseless until he couldn't continue. So therefore, Kevin Owens won the NXT Championship. So this match, it wasn't more so that the match was great, but like how they booked like the post-match, I think was the best part of this, because they went with the angle where Kevin Owens, so he wins the NXT Championship via referee stoppage, and then they have the big angle where Samoa Joe makes his NXT debut, saving Sami Zayn from any further damage, which I thought that was really good how they booked that. Kevin Owens, he was completely in control. He was such a dominant heel in NXT at this point. They were booking him really well, really menacing heel. Sami Zayn, this was yet another takeover loss, which as I said, I compare him to Gargano in this regard. Like, Zayn took his fair share of takeover losses. Like, he put over many a talent. Like, he had the win against Adrian Neville, which was his one win, but this was by now the 5th NXT special, and this was his 4th loss. So he's 1-4 in NXT specials, takes a loss here. Pretty much NXT Takeover Rival. This show, first show of 2015, really good in hindsight for building the groundwork for NXT in 2015 and getting those main talents, your Hideo Itami, your Finn Balor, your Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, really showcasing them. For the women, getting all 4 of those, quartet of, women on the show, but Banks, Charlotte, Bayley, Becky, so it was good for that regard. And then also I found the show, the main stars of 2014 in NXT, Tyler Breeze, Adrian Neville, Zayn, they all took losses here. So really, those guys putting over the 2015, 2016 crop of NXT talents that really carry the brand, which I found interesting. So that's what we've got there, NXT TakeOver Rival. I'll move on, pretty much next show for NXT was NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. This show took place May 20th, 2015, once again at Full Sail University. This show, we got 6 matches on the card. As a card, I remember NXT TakeOver Unstoppable. Like, I enjoyed the show. I thought the theme song was killer. That was one of the first NXT TakeOver songs I remember just thinking, wow. Like, the song, I will be unstoppable. I'm not going to sing, because you guys would just turn the video off right away, but I remember that was a great theme song. This show, I found it interesting in the regard that they had the opener with Finn Balor defeating Tyler Breeze to become the number 1 contender for the NXT Championship. If you guys were listening just then, you heard Finn Balor beat Adrian Neville at Rival to become the number 1 contender for the NXT Championship. So they had another number 1 contenders match with Finn Balor. Really, the thing with this was they were trying to kill time, because at this point the main event picture was you had Finn Balor and Tyler Breeze. So that was the real thing going on there. And then you had the rest of the main card where Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. You were trying to kill off that program. So that was interesting. Okay, guys, I've just realized something. Just to make a correction, the Samoa Joe debut wasn't at Rival. It was here at Unstoppable. I don't know what I was talking about before. But yeah, so we'll just forget everything I said there. Basically, what they're trying to do here was they're wanting Finn Balor to be like in the main championship picture. But it was too early for him, because they're still doing this Kevin Owens Sami Zayn program, and they're really extending this to another live special. So we got from probably about January through May of just Owens and Zayn, which is great. These two guys had the match here. Basically, from memory, this match was, it was fine, but if I remember correctly, Sami Zayn, 2 weeks before this, debuted on Raw. He took on Cena in the US title open challenge, which Cena in 2015 with the US title was excellent. Zayn was his challenger. I think it was a Raw in Canada, I think. And the crowd was ecstatic for him. Zayn, it was May 4th, I believe. So he's doing his entrance, he's throwing his shoulders up in the air, and then one of his shoulders blows out. So he wasn't fully healthy for this match. And as a result, the match went 13 minutes, ended in no contest. Zayn, he didn't want to really damage his shoulder too much, so realistically, they wrote him off television. And then they did the Samoa Joe thing here. They had Joe debut. Samoa Joe comes in. This, I thought, was really good. I like how they did it. Kevin Owens, he's still the champion, retains against Zayn. No contest finish in the main event. As I said earlier in the show, Finn Balor became number 1 contender. And the rest of this show was, it was alright. There were 2 women's matches on this show. Firstly, you had Bayley team as Charlotte to beat Dana Brooke and Emma. So, whatever. Just doesn't really matter. Baron Corbin beat Rhino. So that's Baron Corbin's third or fourth takeover win. They were just giving Corbin wins, but none of them really felt that important. Rhino being in NXT, interesting. Even in 2015, Rhino was in NXT. I don't know really why in hindsight, just more of an enhancement talent, I guess. And then you had the tag team championships with Blake and Murphy retaining against Colin Cassidy and Enzo Amore. So that was before it was Big Cass and Enzo. It was Colin Cassidy and they had Carmella in their corner. So I thought that was whatever. And then the women's championship match. This was the match of the night of this show. It was the longest match of the card at 15 and a half minutes. Sasha Banks beating Becky Lynch via submission. This was the night Becky Lynch was really made, first put on the show, showcasing the spotlight, because Becky, she was in the Fatal 4-Way match at Rival, but this match here was really, good for putting her over. This was her first singles match. Sasha and her put on a great show. That was a 4-star match from memory. Really good stuff. I thought Sasha retaining was the right idea, and lo and behold, as we'd see, Takeover Brooklyn, it was definitely the right call. But yeah, so it just worked what they did here. Sasha and Becky, I really liked it. It was really good. Sasha retaining via the the bank statement from memory, I believe. So that was good. But yeah, so Takeover Unstoppable, the debut of Samoa Joe. That wasn't a rival, that was here. So Samoa Joe debuts. That was a big hot angle out of this show. Becky Lynch made herself into a star at this show, and Finn Balor was still buying time as he fought towards the NXT Championship. So that's what NXT Takeover Unstoppable gave us. And then we had the first ever NXT Takeover outside of Full Sail University. NXT Takeover Brooklyn. Now, this show took place from the Barclays Center, Brooklyn, obviously, Brooklyn, New York. Attendance for this show, 15,589. Compared to the 500 of Full Sail, this got over 15,500 people, which is nuts to think about. This is 2015, and NXT were pulling that, so that was just insane. Basically, this show, very significant show. The stuff on this show was title changes, you had great matches, really great in the progression of NXT, and the one match especially, which I think we all know, NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, we associate that show with one match specifically, and I'll talk about that in a tiny little bit. So basically this show is very interesting. So they opened the show with Jushin Thunder Liger. He made his pretty much North American NXT kind of big match debut here, and he beat Tyler Breeze, so this is yet another loss to Tyler Breeze, his third straight loss at a TakeOver in 2015. Tyler Breeze, as I said, 2014 was a year he was prominently in the main event. 2015, he was just losing every week, and then he debuted in the main roster. And a few months after this, he had the match with Dolph Ziggler at Survivor Series, which I remember being pretty terrible. So yeah, Jushin Thunder Liger wins the opener of TakeOver Brooklyn, which was significant in itself. Just everything Jushin's done for pro wrestling, having him at TakeOver Brooklyn was great. So then you rolled into the Vaudevillains, whatever. They won the tag team championships from Blake and Murphy. Blake and Murphy held the titles for a while at this point, I think 8 to 9 months, I believe. I mean, they held the titles for a while, so big win for Aiden English and Simon Gotch here. They had Blue Pants in their corner, who I remember hating. That was just a cringe gimmick. And then you had Apollo Crews, formerly known as Uhaa Nation. He made his debut at NXT, took on Ty Dillinger. I thought this match was pretty good. Apollo Crews, he was so promising at this time. He's such a great talent, but he just doesn't get used. He's just with Titus O'Neil, and they don't use him on the main roster at the moment, so that was disappointing to see what they did with Apollo Crews, but, regardless. And then we got Samoa Joe's first match in NXT, a takeover, took on Baron Corbin. I liked what they did here. I really did. They had Samoa Joe take on Baron Corbin, who Corbin had won, I think, the last 4 straight takeovers, from memory, yeah. Corbin had this takeover winning streak coming in. Samoa Joe went into this match and made Corbin TKO. So, he did the Kakita clutch and Corbin just, was technically submitted. So, Samoa Joe came in with a big credible win. And then we get the big match. The NXT Women's Championship. This was an absolute classic. The best NXT takeover match they did for a while. Bayley, Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks came in the champion. She won the title from Charlotte in that fatal 4-way at Rival. Comes into this match here. Bayley, just, on fire. Such a great babyface at this time. The crowd was so into Bayley. Sasha Banks was the heel. These two worked so well on this night. Got 18 minutes. I'd probably have given it 4 3/4, 5 stars. It was such a great match. These two women everything clicked that night. And just everything about that match was just excellent. It was by far the best match of NXT TakeOver. All of 2015. All of 2014 as well, I'd say. And just all in all, just an incredible match. Match of the year for 2015, I'd say. just what they did this night. And then, like, I remember distinctively that spot they did where, like, what was it? I think Bailey did the poison run or the spike run or something, and Sasha literally landed on her neck, I believe. Was it Bailey? Whatever that, you guys know the spot I'm talking about. Like, someone landed on their neck, and then they had this, Bailey just ended up winning with the Bailey to belly, I believe. It was just so great. I need to go back and watch that match. It was so good to watch. Like, Sasha Banks and Bailey were made into instant stars that night. Like, from memory, what they had with this was, I believe, 2015. That was when they had the team bad, team, what was it, PCB, and then they're like the 3 women's teams, and they were just forcing women onto the show in like July, August. So like the main roster was really embracing the women, because what they did was they just called up all the women at once in NXT, which just didn't work. Like, they just got all the women and just threw them onto the show, and I didn't like how they did that. So they left Bailey as the champion. Triple H campaigned that Bailey wasn't ready to go to the main roster, so Bailey stayed in NXT. The rest of the women were just, Charlotte, Becky, Sasha. They were all on the main roster every week. They were doing the stuff with Paige, Tamina, Naomi. I think Natalia was involved. Like, they were really forcing the women's revolution in 2015. Very political agenda, but that didn't affect this match at all. This match was just truly excellent. The first great NXT TakeOver match, in my opinion. Like, truly, truly great. Like, Zayn and Neville was really good. Zayn Cesaro was really good. But this match here, Bailey and Sasha truly delivered. It was excellent. And then they did the main event, which was, in hindsight, a pretty good match. It's very underrated, in my opinion. Finn Balor against Kevin Owens, the NXT Championship. Finn Balor won the NXT Championship from Owens at Beast in the East. He won it. I think they had a great match at that show. Here, Finn Balor defended the title successfully against Kevin Owens. I thought that what they did here was really good. They did the ladder match, 4-ish stars, 4.25. It wasn't amazing. Nowhere near as good as Bailey Sasha, but still a really good match. Finn Balor retaining the title over Kevin Owens. But at this point, Kevin Owens in NXT, he was done. Kevin Owens, this was in August. Owens already had his program with Cena in the main roster. He did the matches at Elimination Chamber, Money in the Bank, and Battleground, I believe. Like, they did the 3 matches with Cena. Owens won at the Chamber and then lost the next 2, so that was disappointing. But Owens, he was just like Sasha Banks. He'd already moved on. He'd already been showcased on the main roster, so it was clear Finn Balor would retain here, and he did. So for this show, NXT, really going forward into the future, what we took from this show, Finn Balor as the NXT champion, leading the brand, Samoa Joe as like a real legit contender, Baron Corbin taking his first loss, Jushin Thunder Liger as like an exhibition act, beating Tyler Breeze, so another loss for Breeze at the TakeOver, and then Bailey as the flagship bearer for the women's division in 2015 going into 2016. So that was NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, very significant show in NXT's history. We move on. NXT TakeOver Respect. Now, this show took place October 7th, 2015 from the Full Sail University audience. This show, this defines one-match show, really. Like, the main 2 things with this show were the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic and then the 30-minute Iron Man match for the NXT Women's Championship in the main event. Basically, this was just how they did this. So the Dusty Tag Team Classic, we go to see this year after year. They're doing it tonight, or literally right now as I'm recording this. They're doing the Dusty Tag Team Classic first round for 2020. But this is a massive success. Basically, we got on this show Finn Balor and Samoa Joe, who are a tag team, which is interesting. Balor and Joe, they were teaming up at this point. So the two main baby faces on NXT were teaming up, taking on the Mechanics, as they were called this time, Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson. So before the revival, they were called the Mechanics. Interesting to note that. So that was the opener of the show. Balor and Joe got the win. And then you did Baron Corbin and Rhino, who are a tag team. They teamed up to defeat Chad Gable and Jason Jordan. They weren't called American Alpha just yet, and they weren't really that great a tag team at this stage, but they blossomed in the next year, so it's good to see that. So those are the semi-finals. And then they did the final later on the show where Finn Balor and Samoa Joe defeated Baron Corbin and Rhino. So afterwards they did the big ceremony, the pop and circumstance. They had Dusty there, they had Dustin Rhodes, Cody, Brandy, they had everyone involved. It's weird to look back on now, given how AEW and what's happened with them, but at the time it was such a sentimental moment. Dusty was there, presenting the trophy. Was he? I don't know if he was. He might have been dead at this point. I'm sorry, this makes me look like an absolute clown. You guys are probably laughing at me, thinking, oh, he's been dead for whatever, but Basically, they had all the roads were there. It was this big circumstance, this big ceremony. Finn Balor and Samoa Joe won the Dusty Tag Team Classic, so that was really good. Other than that, besides the main event, we got Asuka defeating Dana Brooks. That was Asuka's takeover debut. I thought that was really good what they did there. Dana Brooke taking another L at TakeOver, so that's good to see. And then Apollo Crews defeated Tyler Breeze. So, look, Tyler Breeze taking another loss at NXT TakeOver in 2015. That's his 4th TakeOver loss of the year. Brilliant. Tyler Breeze, you clown. So, moving on, we got Bayley and Sasha Banks. Main event, 30-minute Iron Man match for the NXT Women's Championship. This was tremendous. How they booked this was great. I felt like Bayley was really getting over at this time. This show was just exactly what she needed. This 30-minute Iron Woman match. It was just great. The booking for this match, basically they had Sasha Banks get the first pinfall, then Bayley got one, and then Sasha got the pinfall, and then Bayley did, so it was 2-2. And then they had like 12 minutes of great wrestling. It was, very intense that last 10 minutes. And then they did the ending where literally Bayley was in this armbar. Bayley had Sasha in the armbar. And then Sasha had to submit with like a second left. So Bayley retained the NXT Women's Championship here. But no surprise, because Sasha was already in the main roster at this point. But Bayley really, this and TakeOver Brooklyn really propelled Bayley. Like, she went from like a pretty good talent to like a women's star on those two shows, thanks to Sasha. So those matches just did wonders for both women. Great main event for NXT Takeover Respect. And yeah, they did the ending with Triple H giving Bayley the flowers, and everyone was on the stage congratulating Bayley at the end. So NXT Takeover Respect suddenly lived up to the name with the Dusty Tag Team Classic and Sasha Banks against Bayley in number 2. And then we moved on. The final NXT Takeover of 2015, NXT Takeover London. Now, this show, I don't know, this was part and parcel with most of the takeovers in 2015 and 2016, realistically. It was very much just one match show, really, when you think about it. Like, I look back at this card, the main match was Finn Balor Samoa Joe, which I'll talk about now. It was, that match, they did the heel turn for Samoa Joe, and he took the championship contendership, and after that Tag Team Classic win, they did the turn. Samoa Joe was, the dominant heel, Finn Balor the babyface. Finn Balor came out as the Fiend here, which was great. I always love the Fiend the Fiend. Oh my god, the Demon, I'm sorry. I'm trying to film this as much as I can in one go, so this is turning into an absolute mess. I'm sorry. First the Dusty thing, now the 30-woman Iron Man thing, now this. I'm sorry, guys, just deal with it, okay? Just enjoy the commentary. So, Finn Balor, he was the Demon here. Samoa Joe. The thing with this and this show, given that it was in London, it was in the SSE Arena, it took place in front of 10,000 people, which the crowd was great in London. It was just a great crowd, so that was really good. The match with Finn Balor and Samoa Joe, pretty good, 4 stars, nothing more, nothing less. I thought Finn Balor retaining was probably the right call. These two were going to feud plenty. Like, these two, when you look at NXT's roster at this time, these are the only guys NXT really had at this point, because the main roster had taken away all the star NXT talents. Everyone like Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Neville was long gone by this point. Like, Finn Balor and Joe were the main two they had really left, because Apollo Crews wasn't a main event talent yet. Baron Corbin, on this show, Baron Corbin beat Apollo Crews, but Baron Corbin wasn't a legitimate NXT Championship contender ever. Baron Corbin, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's now 5-1 at takeovers. 5-2, something like that. Corbin gets plenty of takeover wins, up to this point. So, that's interesting to note. Other than that, Dash and Dawson, who they weren't the mechanics anymore, they're just Dash and Dawson. They defeated Enzo and Colin Cassidy to retain their tag team championships, which they won, I think, on NXT TV in November 2015. So, Dash and Dawson, they were getting their tag team championship defense in here. They opened the show for NXT TakeOver London with Asuka defeating Emma, which is the same match they do at TLC 2017. Asuka, Emma here. It went for 15 minutes? Excuse me? Really? That went for 15 minutes? Jeez, okay. Yeah, TakeOver London, not the greatest show. The Bayley match on this show for the Women's Championship, Bayley retained against Nia Jax. So, Nia Jax was not as dominant in NXT as she was in the main roster, but still, Bayley retained. She had no other women besides Bayley. They had to rebuild the whole division at this point, because really, Vince McMahon saw the success of NXT in 2014 and really like middle of 2015. And then around the time of like the middle of 2015, he just gutted NXT of all their talent. Zayn, Owens, like the whole women's division, they were gutted of the talent. So you were left with not a lot in NXT at the end of 2015 for this December Takeover London show. So it was interesting to look back on. Finn Balor and Samoa Joe was like the main act, like the main rivalry. But besides that, like, they're really building up Asuka, which is interesting to note. Like, coming out of this show, Asuka really being built up as the main contender in the women's division. Dash and Dawson being the main tag team. And then that was literally it, Finn Balor retaining. So that's NXT TakeOver London. That's NXT TakeOver in 2015. Now we'll move on to NXT TakeOver in 2016. And boy, don't we start off with a great show. This was just amazing. NXT TakeOver Dallas, which was the best takeover they'd done to this point, in my opinion. NXT TakeOver Dallas was just an incredible wrestling show. I think we all know why, primarily, but I mean, I'll go through the card from 1 through 5 for the matches. So yeah, 5 matches on this card. We open the show, just an outstanding tag team match. Chad Gable and Jason Jordan. By this point, they were now American Alpha. They were taking on the Revival, Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson. The Revival, Wilder and Dawson, they were the tag team champions at this point still. They'd kept their titles for the last like 5-ish months, taking on Chad Gable and Jason Jordan. The crowd in Dallas here, where they were located in the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, which had 9,000 people in the building. It was great. This is WrestleMania weekend. The first takeover they'd done on the weekend of a main show, I believe. So that was great to see. Basically, they had the opener with American Alpha defeating the Revival to win the Tag Team Championships. This was great. The crowd was so hot for this, so into it. Everything they did, the crowd was so for. It was just great to watch. I thought, on the whole, just this match was excellent. These two teams put on a show. Like, it was a great way to open the show. From here, we went into Austin Aries against Baron Corbin. So Austin Aries, he came into NXT like beginning of 2016. He was a big signing after like everything Austin's done in TNA and ROH and all the indies. So Austin Aries came in, defeats Baron Corbin. So Corbin at this point, he's been having takeover matches since literally 2014. So, you know, Corbin's been right around the shop for NXT. Austin Aries defeats him in a 10-minute match, which I thought was good. Probably like a 3.5 stars. Nothing incredible, but pretty good. And then I'll talk about the women's championship match first. So Asuka versus Bayley, pretty much, I can see why they didn't do a takeover in February for NXT. They just had no real women, no women's division. They wanted to build up this real WrestleMania weekend show. I think it was great, especially for the women's division. Asuka and Bayley. Asuka was really built up as, you know, being undefeated through London, through the, you know, January, February, March, and then you get to April 1st. This show here was just absolutely just this show with Asuka. She defeats Bayley by TKO. So Asuka locked in the Asuka lock and defeated Bayley. So Asuka wins the NXT Women's Championship from Bayley. Asuka then just took over the NXT Women's Division. This is big in 2016, going to 2017. Asuka absolutely took over the Women's Division. So what she did was so impressive, just great to watch. So yeah, Asuka takes over the division there. And then we went to the main event, Finn Balor vs Samoa Joe. Personally, I would have had Nakamura and Zayn main event, but, you know, it's just my opinion. Balor, once again, retained against Samoa Joe, which I thought was interesting. They didn't have Samoa Joe go over here. Like, they had the match at London. So, by this point, Finn Balor and Joe, they won the Tag Team Classic back in October. They had the turn from Joe, and then they feuded in November. And then December, they had the match at London, where Balor retained. And then they feuded all through WrestleMania season, January, February, March. Get to this match 1st of April, and Balor retains. So at this point, they've been feuding 6 months. Joe hasn't even won a match yet against Balor for the title. So I was confused by that decision. The match was pretty good. Like, none of the matches Balor and Joe had were bad, but I just think the booking decision was a bit odd. So, I mean, that was just my opinion. And then we get the main match. The match that everyone remembers, and justifiably so, just Shinsuke Nakamura against Sami Zayn. Now, Sami Zayn was basically like out of NXT at this point. I mean, he'd done his dash. He was the champion. He had the feud with Kevin Owens, and then he was kind of phased out. Because the thing of Sami Zayn, as I said, he threw his shoulder out like 2 weeks before the match at Rival versus Kevin Owens, and then Zayn went off. He had his surgery for like 6 months. He came back and he got this program in with Shinsuke Nakamura. This was Shinsuke's debut in NXT, and oh my god, he was treated like a rock star. Like, it was treated like the Beatles' Homecoming. for Shinsuke Nakamura at TakeOver Dallas. Like, that crowd absolutely ate up everything he did that night. His entrance was just electric. It was thunderous in Dallas. Sami Zayn, it was his like farewell in NXT. Everything just clicked with this match. Got 20 minutes. These two guys just... The match was so fluid. It flowed so well. The chemistry between these two was on point. Storytelling was great. Crowd investment was incredible. Just commentary wasn't great, but whatever. Shinsuke and Zayn was just truly special. This was the best match NXT had done up to this point. You know, better than Bayley Sasha, better than Cesaro Zayn, better than Zayn versus Neville. This was just the best match NXT had done. I think I had this at number 2 in my list of best matches all decade. Like, that's how highly I rated this match. This match was just truly special. One of the greatest NXT's put on. Just everything clicked this night. And on the whole, it just made NXT Takeover Dallas a show that really, like, it set the foundation. Not even set the foundation. The foundation was set in 2014, but it really just further built upon this kind of brand NXT were building as big show performers. Like, you get to these big takeovers and NXT just pulls it out of the bag and delivers a great show. They certainly did that here, and I thought it was excellent. So that was NXT Takeover Dallas. Just top to bottom, from the incredible American Alpha Revival tag team title opener to Shinsuke versus Zayn to Asuka, becoming the new women's champion, and then Finn Balor and Samoa Joe in the main event for the NXT Championship. This was just an excellent show. NXT's best takeover up to this point. And then from here we move on to June 8th, 2016. Once again at Full Sail University, NXT Takeover at the end. Now, this show was very interesting. So what they did, they had Samoa Joe defeat Finn Balor. I believe, he won the title at like a live event or something in like May. Which is interesting how they did that. So Joe won the title, and then they did this like big final match with Finn Balor at Takeover the End. So in June, steel cage match. The match was good. It was our third Takeover main event with Joe and Balor. By this point, I was kind of over it a little bit. So, I mean, whatever, really. This show definitely wasn't as good as Takeover Dallas, and not many takeovers up until 2018 were as good as Takeover Dallas. I don't think anywhere, to be honest, but yeah, basically this show, all about Joe versus Balor, steel cage match. Samoa Joe retained the title. He was really steaming on with his reign, and he'd go on to face a very worthy opponent at TakeOver Brooklyn 2. But yeah, so Joe and Balor, I thought it was really good what they did here. As for the rest of the show, they opened the show with Andrade having his first TakeOver match. He beat Ty Dillinger, who Ty Dillinger was just an enhancement talent for life in NXT. He always managed to get the TakeOver matches, but he never really delivered at the TakeOvers. So yeah, Andrade Cien Almas defeated Ty Dillinger. Thought that was really good. And then we had the Tag Team Championship rematch between the Revival and American Alpha. Another excellent match. These two teams are just phenomenal what they did. They still are, but they're not showcased that way. These guys just put on a show. The Revival were just in NXT. The Revival were excellent. American Alpha were excellent. So yeah, the Revival go over and win the Tag Team Championships back from American Alpha. As for the rest of the show, Asuka defeated Nia Jax. Okay, don't really care. Asuka, just getting that reign, that reign retention, the matches under her belt. Nia Jax was like the only other woman they had besides Bayley, really, in the division who they built up. Because, as I said before, the NXT Women's division at this point was totally depleted. The 4 horsewomen were now, by this point, all gone. So you had Asuka, Nia Jax. Those are the 2 main women they had on the show. And they booked them like that. They were the 2 main women here. And Asuka went over. And then the other match on this show, Shinsuke Nakamura beat Austin Aries. Pretty good match. I don't remember much from this. It was really entertaining, but it got 17 minutes. And that was about it. That was like the co-headline match of this show. So, yeah, we move on from NXT Takeover the End to NXT Takeover Brooklyn 2. Now, this show was great. It was really good. It got 6 matches on this card. Basically, I only count them as being 5 matches because one of the matches I didn't even regard. So pretty much this show, we opened with Austin Aries against No Way Jose, where No Way Jose, they was trying to push him and make him remotely credible at this point. Gave him an 11-minute takeover opener match against Austin Aries. Of course, Austin won, so that was fine. Ember Moon then beat Billie Kay. Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, because of what's happened on the Iconics, I just resent them. So that match went 4 minutes, don't really care. Bobby Roode then took on Andrade. 10-minute match here. Bobby Roode got the win. This is Roode's first takeover match, so interesting to note. Bobby Roode, he'd go on to be a star in NXT in 2017. 2017 was really Bobby Roode's year. He really came out strongly. Andrade, he also became a big star in NXT. He'd go on to be the champion, as we'll talk about later. And then also on this show, we had Asuka beating Bayley again. Bayley, by this point, she'd come back. This was like real farewell match in NXT, having Asuka defeat her again for the Women's Championship. So I thought what they did there was good. Asuka, by this point, she'd been in NXT around a year. No losses yet, obviously. The main event of this show, Shinsuke Nakamura against Samoa Joe for the NXT Championship. I was really entertained by this match because the thing with Nakamura, he had his debut match against Sami Zayn at Dallas, 5-star classic, incredible. Had the match against Austin Aries at the end where Nakamura got the win. So Shinsuke was really built up well. The crowd was so into him. He fought like Samoa Joe here. Joe just come off the literally like 8-month program with Finn Balor. This was great. The segments they did in the build to this were just phenomenal. Shinsuke got the win against Samoa Joe. Very legit, very credible feeling match. So I was very entertained by that. Shinsuke and Joe. Those guys did a great job in the main event here. Shinsuke becoming the new NXT champion. So that was significant for NXT. I really enjoyed it. So that was good. And then the main match of this show that people remember, the Revival versus DIY. This was really just the rivalry of the year, in my opinion, for NXT. The Revival and DIY, like, this was the first takeover match they had. It was the Revival coming in as champions, DIY, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa. You'll hear those names plenty to come for NXT TakeOver, but the Revival just did absolute bits in this match. The Revival and DIY, two just tremendous teams. This match went 19 minutes. Just excellent. Go back and watch this if you haven't already. This was just fantastic. These two teams had such great chemistry. All four men are such great wrestlers, so they put on a great match. And yeah, that was NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 2. So what we really took out of this, Shinsuke Nakamura being crowned the new NXT champion and leading kind of like a new, not an era, but like a new kind of phase in NXT. Asuka defeating Bayley again, so really Asuka becoming even more credible in NXT. The Revival against DIY really coming out as a big prominent feud. And then Bobby Roode and Austin Aries getting wins. So that was TakeOver Brooklyn 2, August 20th, 2016 from the Barclays Center. Second time they were in Brooklyn, and once again it delivered. So we move on to the final NXT TakeOver of 2016, NXT TakeOver Toronto. This was the first of two Toronto takeovers they've done. Took place November 19th, 2016 from the Air Canada Center. They got 12,649 people here. The show itself was, once again, like, the stuff they did in this show, I mean, I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty good all-around takeover. I'd give this show is probably like a B+ takeover in my opinion. Basically, the match everyone remembers from this takeover, DIY versus the Revival in a 2 out of 3 falls match, the NXT Tag Team Championships. This was, it was so good. I'd say this was up there for match of the year for 2016. Obviously, Nakamura and Zayn won it for NXT, but DIY against the Revival, having the Revival come in still as the champions, they by this point were really credible. Like, the Revival had been around for probably a bit over a year now. Like, they really cemented themselves in NXT as a credible tag team. DIY, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, both their second takeover matches each respectively. This was their big moment. This match here, just excellent, just truly excellent. DIY getting the win in the end, just great. So if you haven't seen that match, go out and watch it. TakeOver Toronto, DIY versus the Revival for the Tag Team Championships, 2 out of 3 falls. So 2 out of 3 falls thing really benefited the match because it just works so well. So that was great. Also on this show, we had Samoa Joe against Shinsuke Nakamura for the second time at TakeOver. They had Samoa Joe beat Shinsuke. So Joe won back the NXT Championship. Samoa Joe becoming the first ever 2-time NXT champion here. I thought that was good. Interesting booking decision having the title go back to Joe. I thought I could see why, because the main event picture wasn't really like that prominent. Like, the only other guy they had really as like a clear main eventer at this point was Bobby Roode, because Bobby Roode in the main opener of this show defeated Ty Dillinger in a singles match, which took 16.5 minutes. So they really put over Dillinger in that match, but I mean, on the whole, it was just Bobby Roode being put over. So I mean, I like that. So that's what I had with Bobby Roode. Also on this show, they had the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic, which like the final. So Paul Ellering, the manager of the Authors of Pain, so Akam Razor, he was suspended in a shark cage above the ring, which was funny. They took on TM61, so Nick Miller and Shane Thorne. Shane Thorne, he's been around NXT for ages now. He always makes his appearances in NXT. Nick Miller, I haven't seen much of him since. So, yeah, the Authors of Pain got the Tag Team Classic victory here. So, yeah, the first Tag Team Classic was won by Finn Balor and Samoa Joe. Second Tag Team Classics won by the Authors of Pain, Akam Razor here. So it was really good what they did. Just all-around great stuff. And then you had Asuka and Mickie James, the NXT Women's Championship. When I see this match on paper, it just screams that NXT, they didn't have a credible women's division at this point. Like, Mickie James, Is that really who you're having Asuka face? Like, Asuka was clearly not going to lose the title to Mickie James. She retained via submission. Mickie James, she was just kind of there because there were no like credible built-up women by this point, which was a big issue with NXT in 2016. The women's division just wasn't there. It was Asuka, Bayley, and then Nia Jax, and that was literally your women's division. Because everyone else, there was just no one really credible else. So, I mean, that was that. I mean, on the whole, NXT Takeover Toronto, it was really, like, after Takeover Brooklyn 2, I felt like they really started, these takeovers really started, you could see the all-round improvement of the shows. Like, Takeover Dallas was the first great takeover. The rest of 2016, the takeovers on the whole were pretty good. Takeover the end wasn't the best, but the rest of these takeovers, so Brooklyn 2 and Toronto, were good. So we move into 2017 now. 2017 opened with NXT Takeover San Antonio. Personally, I love what they did with this show. I think the main event for this show was just sensational. I love what they did here. They had Bobby Roode, who he'd won, I think, 2 or 3 takeovers, going like consecutively, taking on Shinsuke Nakamura for the NXT Championship. This match got time, which it was the longest NXT Takeover match they'd ever done to this point. This match got 27 minutes. These two guys put on an absolute show. This was great to watch. I love what they did here. Bobby Roode, he was really just... Bobby Roode in NXT, this version of Bobby Roode was just truly excellent. The heel, brash, arrogant Bobby Roode. If they took this to the main roster, it would work so well. Like the glorious with the robe and just the arrogance of Bobby, but I mean, it hasn't amounted to anything. This match at San Antonio was just so great. Bobby Roode is just so good at what he does. That man knows exactly how to be a heel. This was truly excellent. The Bobby Roode we saw throughout TNA and all the independents, this was just great. He knocked off Shinsuke Nakamura, who... Shinsuke won the title back from Samoa Joe, I believe, in December of 2016. So they had Nakamura in his second reign here, be dethroned by Bobby Roode. This was the beginning of Bobby Roode's reign, Bobby Roode's tenure as champion. I thought Bobby Roode's reign as champion, as we'll go on to talk about, was pretty good. It wasn't great, but it was pretty good. Other than that, like, NXT in 2017, I wasn't that into it, if I'm being quite honest, because really 2017 was like more like a kind of like a development year for NXT, because like the roster had just been gutted by by Vince and Raw and SmackDown, so this was a really kind of rebuild year for NXT. Like, yeah, as the introduction of Adam Cole and the Undisputed Era later in 2017, and really the breakout of Gargano and Ciampa, those like the main things for 2017, and that kind of stuff really made 2018-19 as good as they were. So yeah, I mean, that's the main thing of 2017. Bobby Roode winning the NXT Championship from Shinsuke Nakamura. Other than that, this show, Asuka defended the Women's Championship in a fatal 4-way match against Peyton Royce, Billie Kay, and Nikki Cross, which really just screams that there were no challenges in the women's division, because Billie Kay and Peyton Royce are terrible. Nikki Cross is good, but does she really deserve to win the championship over Asuka? No, so Asuka got another win because of that. We got Roderick Strong defeating Andrade Cien Almas. Roderick Strong making his TakeOver debut here. Andrade taking a loss here at TakeOver. Nothing really to talk about there. Eric Young defeated Ty Dillinger, so yet another TakeOver loss for Ty Dillinger. He just couldn't win a TakeOver. So Eric Young had Alexander Wolf and Killian Dane in his corner, so sanity. That was fine. And then the other match I haven't talked about yet, the Authors of Pain, so Akam and Razor defeated DIY to win the Tag Team Championships. That was the other good thing on this show. Well, the Authors of Pain were great in NXT. That was so good. Paul Ellering was so credible. Akam Razor felt so special. They knocked off DIY here. I thought it was great. So that's what we got there. And then we move on to NXT Takeover Orlando. The takeover we got WrestleMania 33 weekend. It was pretty good. I don't think this was great. It was like, as I said, NXT in 2017. Like the WrestleMania weekend takeover for 2017, in my opinion, was the weakest WrestleMania weekend takeover we've ever gotten. Which, I mean, that's pretty understandable when TakeOver Dallas was epic, TakeOver New Orleans was incredible, and TakeOver New York was, in my opinion, the best takeover ever. So, yeah, TakeOver Orlando gets a short end of the straw with that, but still, like, I look at this card, and, I mean, in hindsight, it's just nothing just that special on this card. Like, you had Bobby Roode and Shinsuke Nakamura, 2 of the NXT Championship. Bobby Roode went over. The match got 28 minutes. Once again, another great match between these two guys, but it wasn't like a 5-star classic or anything. Just these two, it was such fun matches to watch at San Antonio and Orlando, but on the whole, that was really it for this show. Because other than that, I mean, We got the triple threat elimination match, the NXT Tag Team Championships between the Authors of Pain, who are the champions, defending against DIY, so Gargano and Ciampa, and then the Revival, Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson. That match was probably my favourite match of the night as far as like something to go back and watch, because I just thought it was so interesting, so entertaining. Basically, the Authors of Pain were great in NXT, very dominant. DIY taking yet another loss at TakeOver. Like their third TakeOver loss out of 4, so good to see that for DIY. The Revival, this was like, one of the last notable matches in NXT. So, Dash Wilder, Scott Dawson, taking the loss here. I thought this was fine. And then, the rest of TakeOver Orlando, Aleister Black defeated Andrade Cien Almas, which was a preview for what we'd see in 2018 with the NXT Championship. So, Aleister Black getting his first TakeOver match here at Orlando. I think Aleister Black's amazing. Andrade taking another TakeOver loss, not the best, but whatever. And then the opener of the show was Sanity defeating Cassius Ohno, Roderick Strong, Ruby Riott, and Ty Dillinger in like an 8-person mixed tag. I didn't like this. I thought this was just very, very random. Like, Sanity was Alexander Wolf, Eric Young, Killian Dane, and Nikki Cross, which is such a random concoction of people. But, I guess in the long run it kind of worked out, but I didn't love what they did with this. And then other than that, they had Asuka defeat Ember Moon to retain the NXT Women's Championship. Once again, the thing with Asuka's reign, it was so long and it was like such a great number of days because there was no competition in the NXT Women's division, okay? She took the title from Bayley, had the match with Nia Jax, had the match with Mickie James, had the match with Ember Moon. Like, they just weren't legit challengers. She had the match with the Fatal 4-Way. Like, Asuka didn't really have anyone to legit take on, so, that's underwhelming, but it's just the truth, guys. So, that was TakeOver Orlando, the WrestleMania 33 weekend TakeOver. This show really, what we got out of this, Bobby Roode retaining the title against Shinsuke in the main event, 28-minute epic. The Authors of Pain retaining the tag titles against DIY and the Revival. And that was it, literally. So, no major title changes. A couple of great matches, but nothing, like, as a whole show, wasn't incredible. Granted, you compare TakeOver Orlando to TakeOver the first one, and it was so much better, but, like, you can see NXT's growth in that time, as I've discussed in this past, hour, but on the whole, just nothing incredible to go back and watch, as a whole TakeOver show. So then we move on. NXT Takeover Chicago took place May 20th, 2017. This show, personally, I thought this was an improvement on NXT Takeover Orlando in my eyes, really because of how they structured this card. I felt like, on the whole, the show, it was just better with how they did this, because, you look at this card, Bobby Roode versus Hideo Itami, a match which, granted, it wasn't incredible, but it was pretty good. I was really entertained by the match. I thought having the NXT Championship with Roode and Itami, it was something different. Having Kenta being in the main event for NXT was good. It was pretty much his highest point for NXT, because other than that, his 5 years NXT was just a waste. Other than that, for the NXT Championship, you had Pete Dunne against Tyler Bate. That match is the main reason why I say this show was just better, because that match was special. It only got 15 minutes, but those guys put an absolute clinic. Tyler Bate, the reigning UK champion, got defeated by Pete Dunne here. This began what would be Pete Dunne's, not reign of terror, but his just 600-plus day reign over the United Kingdom and the championship. Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate here, those two guys are just incredible workers. It's good to see what they're doing now with Pete Dunne and Tyler Bate, as far as Pete Dunne being in NXT, Tyler Bate working a bit of NXT America and then NXT UK, so that's nice to see. These two guys just put an absolute clinic here. One of the better TakeOver matches in history of TakeOver here. Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate, just fluid, excellent match. 15 minutes, if we got 20, it would have been probably one of the best matches they've ever done TakeOver. But instead, 15 minutes, we got this, which was excellent. So that match came second in the card, which is a bit of a weird placement. The match order of this show, I didn't love. You open the show, Roderick Strong against Eric Young, which it's not an alright way to open the show. You had Roderick Strong go over Eric Young, so Eric Young's time in NXT, I don't know. I didn't love Eric Young in NXT, but that was just my opinion. Roderick Strong just getting those wins, building himself up in NXT at the big TakeOver stage. So it was good to see for Roderick Strong. Other than that on this show, Asuka got another successful retention of the Women's Championship. She retained against Nikki Cross and Ruby Riott. Once again, Nikki Cross is emerging as the main challenger, and Ruby Riott, well, she was alright. This is her first TakeOver match. Asuka, just yet another TakeOver victory. This was a triple threat, went for 12 odd minutes. Nothing overly special from this match. It was alright. So, that's the bulk of the card. And then the main event, The main event was a ladder match, the NXT Tag Team Championships, as the Authors of Pain, Akam Razor, retained against DIY, Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. Yet another takeover match for DIY. Those guys just racked up takeover matches. They didn't win many at all. They won one or two so far. They're not getting the wins. Authors of Pain get another win here, so they really put them over in the main event. I remember this match really fondly. I thought what they did in this match was excellent. How they used the ladder, the violence of it. It was great to watch. The storytelling was really good. Gargano and Ciampa falling short again, so that got 20 minutes. And yeah, that was Takeover Chicago. Not too much more to say about that show, really. Just on the whole, Pete Dunne, Tyler Bate was the main thing to watch for in this show. Asuka retained the title against two more women who are nowhere near as good as she is. Bobby Roode, Hideo Itami, the NXT Championship was pretty good. And then Authors of Pain versus DIY in the main event in the ladder match. So that was the NXT Takeover Chicago, May 20th, 2017. And then we move on. NXT Takeover Brooklyn 3. Now, this show, the third Brooklyn, I don't know. I don't know. I look back on this show reasonably fondly. I don't look at this show and think, oh my god, it was amazing. That's one thing with 2017's NXT shows. They were pretty good to great. No questions there. But I don't think of these shows and think, oh my god, I just must watch these back. Which it's kind of upsetting in a way, but then again, there's 2018 and 2019 NXT, which you can happily watch back at any moment, so it's fine. This Takeover Brooklyn 3 show, we opened the show Andrade versus Johnny Gargano, which we'd see that match in a few takeovers time, and boy, it was special. This match here, pretty good little open. I got 13 minutes. These guys, they definitely had clear chemistry, as I'll talk about later on. But yeah, so Andrade versus Johnny Gargano, really enjoyed that match. Very entertaining. Great stuff between those two men. From here, you moved on with the show Sanity. So Alexander Wolf and Eric Young, with Killian Dane and Nikki Cross at ringside, defeated the Authors of Pain, Akam Razor to win the Tag Team Championships. Don't remember much from this match. It was a good tag match. That's the thing of these takeover tag matches, 2018, 2019. I feel like the takeover tag matches and even the singles matches, they took a step up with the quality, which credit to NXT for that. These matches here, it was a good match, not great. So yeah, new tag team champions crowns, Sanity win the tag titles. Eric Young gets another win at Takeover. So they're really putting effort into Eric Young in NXT in 2017. So it's interesting to note. But yeah, this match, nothing overly special. Akam Razor as tag team champions in NXT, they were dominant, really fun to watch. But yeah, just on the whole, they were better in NXT than they were in the main roster, obviously, as is with every talent. But still, they lost titles here at Brooklyn 3. And then we had Aleister Black versus Hideo Itami, which on paper it's a really intriguing match, and in real life it was stiff as hell. The striking of Aleister Black, the striking of Hideo Itami, Kenta, great to watch. Just regular singles match, got 12 minutes. I remember that match fondly. I like watching it. Aleister Black, I think, is amazing. Kenta, excellent talent. So those two guys had a great match at TakeOver Brooklyn 3. You had Asuka, Ember Moon. That was Asuka's next challenger, Ember Moon, which, once again, I didn't love this match. Went for 15 minutes. It was good, not great. Asuka getting the successful retention again. So by this point, her reign is stretching. This is about a year and a half she's held the title now, because she won it at Dallas. So she's held the title for a long, long time at this point. So her reign's really dragging. And then we get to the main event, which I have a lot to say about this main event. Drew McIntyre against Bobby Roode. Personally, I thought Drew McIntyre he's just an excellent, excellent wrestler. I love Drew McIntyre. I think he's amazing. Full all-around package for what you want. Looks legit. Mic skills, just all round. So I think McIntyre's great. He defeated Bobby Roode to take the NXT Championship here. This was his big moment, which, when you look back on McIntyre's reign as NXT Champion, it wasn't that much of a reign, really. He didn't hold the title for very long at all. McIntyre, the match here went 22 minutes. It was a good match. 4.25 stars. Nothing just ungodly, insane like we'd see at the TakeOver main events in years to come. But this was a pretty good match. It was all anyone remembers from this is what happened afterwards, where McIntyre, he hit the Glasgow Kiss and a Claymore on Roode and then won the title. And from here, pin Roode. Basically, afterwards, McIntyre's celebrating with the title, and then Adam Cole made his debut in NXT. Very significant moment here. Cole runs in, Kyle O'Reilly's there, Bobby Fischer's there, and they form the Undisputed Era, which was an incredibly significant moment in NXT's history. The Undisputed Era forming, TakeOver. It changed the shape, it changed the face of NXT from the rest of 2017, 2018, 2019, and much of 2020, I'm sure. So, great stuff there. McIntyre wins NXT Championship. NXT Takeover Brooklyn 3 overall. Basically, this show gave you the preview of Andrade Gargano, gave you new tag team champions with Sanity beating the Authors of Pain. Aleister Black and Utami was a fun, stiff match. Asuka defeated Ember Moon to retain, don't really care. And then Drew McIntyre won the NXT Championship by beating Bobby Roode. So, that was NXT Takeover Brooklyn 3. And then we move on with the takeovers. So, NXT Takeover WarGames I. This show, the WarGames match was primarily what people remember from this show, and justifiably so. The rest of the card was pretty good. Wasn't incredible, but I thought it was pretty good. What they did here, where they had the show, like, much of this undercard, like, there were 2 matches on the undercard which I just didn't like, 2 matches which I thought were excellent, and then the main event, which was ungodly. So, this show, very good takeover from top to bottom. Basically, they opened the show, Lars Sullivan against Cassius Ohno, so 2 big guys going at it. This got 5 minutes. Alright, Lars and Cassius, like, it's fine. Not that big a deal. And the other match I was talking about with not being too special is Ember Moon against Kairi Sane, Nikki Cross, and Peyton Royce to determine the vacant NXT Women's Champion. Which, the thing with this, Asuka made her way out of NXT, like, post-SummerSlam, so she vacated the title. Asuka had a debut match in the main roster at TLC 2017 against Emma, where she got a win in 9 odd minutes, so it's good to see that from Asuka. Apparently, she'd beaten everyone in NXT. There was no one for her to face, so I think it was good she moved on when she did. Because we're going to have her face Kairi Sane again, or like Nikki Cross again, or Ember Moon again. Like, Asuka had done a dash in NXT, so they moved her on, which is fair enough. So we got Ember Moon winning the Fatal 4-Way to become the new Women's Champions. Match wasn't anything special, got like 10 minutes. Good to see Ember Moon getting a championship in NXT. She's been terribly misused on the main roster, Ember Moon. Like, really disappointing that, but still, she got the win here, which was great for her. And then the part of this show that I really remember fondly, Aleister Black and the Velveteen Dream. I love this. The Say My Name Velveteen storyline. Like, this was the first takeover match with the Velveteen Dream. I love the Velveteen Dream. He's so entertaining. He just drips charisma. Like, his charisma is off the charts. It's just second to none. His takeover attires are always great. How he makes his big entrances, how he performs on the big stage, it's great. Aleister Black, as I said, the whole Say My Name Velveteen thing, this really worked. These 2 clicked on this night. Got 15 minutes. The match was incredibly fun. The guys just went out and worked well, so Aleister Black ended up winning. Then they had the infamous moment afterwards where Aleister Black said Velveteen, so that was great. I love that. Aleister Black and the Velveteen Dream. And then the other match that wasn't the main event, Andrade defeating Drew McIntyre to win the NXT Championship. This, as I said with McIntyre's reign, it wasn't very long. This was like, his reign was like 2.5 months. It ran the last bit of August, all of September, all of October 2017, and then literally like half of November, because this show took place November 18th, 2017, in the Houston, Texas Toyota Center, so interesting to note that, but, so Drew McIntyre, he's dethroned here. He'd move on pretty much quickly after this. Andrade carrying the flag of NXT, Zelina Vega in his corner. I thought Andrade as NXT champion was excellent. He was really showing off all his talents as the NXT champion. And then he'd get to the main roster and just wouldn't be used, which, classic Vince McMahon WWE, but, we've come to expect that. It's Vince, it's the main roster, that's just what happens. So, Andrade got the win here, defeated McIntyre. The match wasn't anything amazing. Like, it went 14 minutes, 52 seconds. It was just alright, It's just what you expect from NXT, really. And then you moved on. The Undisputed Era in the main event, WarGames match. The Undisputed Era, so at that time, it was just the 3-man, trifecta of Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly. They were taking on the Authors of Pain, Akam and Razor, with Roderick Strong, as well as Sanity, which was Alexander Wolf, Eric Young, and Killian Dane. It's weird seeing Roderick Strong competing against the Undisputed Era in a WarGames match, but that happened in 2017, so this match was just absolutely phenomenal. I love how they did the 3 teams in WarGames, because in 2018, 2019, they just ran the one team versus another in WarGames, which, granted, the matches were insane, but the format here I just loved. The way they did it was just excellent. It was so much fun to watch. Like, this WarGames match was just excellent. The Undisputed Era got their first, big legit win as a team in NXT, which was great. The match, so many insane spots. Like, I'm not even going to begin to list them because I'd be here for a while. Like, but the things those guys did to themselves. 36 minutes this match went. Sanity, you said this earlier, but I was never a big fan of them in NXT. Like, Alexander Wolf, Eric Young, Killian Dane, I didn't really care. I never felt really any investment for any of those guys. Like, Eric Young, the guy who, so WWE made Daniel Bryan champion in 2014, so TNA, like a month later, made Eric Young, their bearded midget, a champion. So, just because of that, I was never a big fan of Eric Young. Alexander Wolf, I think the spot for him in Imperium right now clicks. He works well in that. Here at Sanity, I didn't really care. And Killian Dane, I just don't connect with Killian Dane. I don't see like what they see in Killian Dane. So that's Sanity. The Authors of Pain and Roderick Strong's a weird team. I don't know how Roderick Strong clicks with Akam and Razor, but this happened. The storyline going in was pretty decent. The WarGames match we got was just phenomenal on the night. Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly getting the win, so that'll be their first WarGames victory. And, well, their last up to this point, so that was really good. And, yeah, all in all, NXT TakeOver WarGames #1. Really good takeover. Really good. I'd say it was just a great takeover all around. Aleister Black, Velveteen Dream, Andrade winning the NXT Championship, the WarGames match between Undisputed Era, Authors of Pain / Roderick Strong, and then Sanity. Just great. And then Ember Moon becoming the new women's champion because Asuka vacated it. So this show was very significant stuff, and from that avenue, lots of stuff which really just captivated the viewer. And in my opinion, this takeover really was a good transition from 2017 to 2018. Really, the NXT takeovers were taking like further steps up, going from shows which were back in 2014, like kind of 6.5, 7 out of 10 type shows. And you can see them just slowly get better. Like, you hit 2016, these shows become 8, 8.5, 9 out of 10s. And now, hit WarGames, this show was a 9 out of 10 in my eyes. And then you really get to 2018, 2019, and the shows hit 9, 9.5, 10 consistently. Like, I'll talk about this in future, like in the next couple of minutes, but I don't see, in my eyes, a takeover that's below like 8.5 stars, or like out of 10 in the past like two and a bit years. Like, all these shows have just been utterly incredible. And it's where just the takeover reputation comes from, just this consistency with how great the shows are, which I felt TakeOver WarGames was really like one of the first great ones that really started the consistency, because Brooklyn 3, I don't think it was just insane. It was a pretty good, great show. I'd give that like an 8 out of 10, but it wasn't just like insane, whereas TakeOver WarGames was ungodly. And in my opinion, this is probably the best takeover they did since Dallas. I feel like maybe there was a couple of others in there, but I thought this one was probably the best they've done since Dallas. And then we move on. So that's the end of 2017. Moving on to NXT in 2018. So this will be good. This will be just great. NXT TakeOver Philadelphia. This show obviously took place Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the Wells Fargo Center, January 27th, 2018. Wow. What a show they gave us on this night. Jesus. So basically, this show, 5-match card. Very simple, as TakeOver tradition would become. The one thing I loved about this, the formatting for the takeovers, it really became what we see now coming into 2020, or now in 2020, where there's, you have your match that exceeds half an hour, you have another match that's like 20 plus minutes, and the other, there's a match that's like 15, and there's a couple of 10s for like timings. Like, really let the matches breathe and let the talents just go out and work, which I feel that's the way TakeOver is best. So loved how they did that. Basically, they had the show open. Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly retained the tag team championships against Akam and Razor. So basically, Bobby O'Reilly and Bobby O'Reilly. This video has been going for like an hour and a half, guys. Forgive me. Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly here. This is their first reign as NXT Tag Team Champions. Those two guys are tag team. They're so great together. They've been around for literally 2+ years as a tag team. I just think they're absolutely excellent. Like, just so great. And also this dynamic of them versus the Authors of Pain, I thought those matches were really entertaining. Like, the match here was really good to open the show. Akam and Razor against the Undisputed Era, which has become a bit of a theme for TakeOver. Like, in the past 2 years, they really opened the shows with these tag team matches that were just like insane. So it's great to watch. Undisputed Era, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly against the Authors of Pain, Akam and Razor. In the end, Undisputed Era retained the titles because they only won them like December or January. I forget exactly when, but they won them like a month before. So it was an important win for them to just get the retention and a takeover. And then we moved on with the show. Velveteen Dream beat Cassius Ohno in like 10 minutes. This is just the first victory on a takeover for the Velveteen Dream. Obviously, the Say My Name Velveteen thing with Aleister Black at Takeover WarGames, that was a loss for Velveteen, so getting him on the winners list here. Velveteen Dream beating Cassius Ohno. The match went like 11 odd minutes. Velveteen, once again, it's just the spectacle of Velveteen Dream at a takeover. Like, he's made for the takeovers with how he does his entrances and how he oozes charisma. So more on Velveteen and takeover later. But yeah, here he beat Cassius Ohno. Not too much to talk about more with this, but just fun to watch Velveteen at a takeover. Then you had Ember Moon defeating Shayna Baszler. So Ember Moon was reigning women's champion here. Shayna Baszler was the challenger, and then Ember Moon got the win. So that was interesting. Match went about 10 minutes. Good match. It was your typical kind of Shayna Baszler takeover match, which I'll talk about plenty. Pretty much Shayna, yeah, her first takeover match here, I'd give it it was like a 3.5 kind of star match. It wasn't like incredible, which that'd be the theme of Shayna Baszler. Like, her matches were good, but they just weren't great at takeover, which kind of brought down some of the takeovers, like, notably. So, here she loses when she challenges for Ember Moon's title. She takes the L, so first loss for Shayna Baszler to takeover, and God, she wouldn't take many more at all in the next 2 years. And then we move on. The double main event. These two matches absolutely carried this show. Like, these two matches made this show from pretty good to just utterly outstanding. First off, Aleister Black, Adam Cole, Extreme Rules match. Just, wow. This match was wild. Like, the Extreme Rules stipulation, because they're in Philadelphia and they made it Extreme Rules, it fit the match really well. Adam Cole just adapts to any situation he's in. Cole, yeah, coming off the WarGames win, he gets takes the L here against Aleister Black. The match, the use of weapons, the storytelling, like Aleister Black's just, yeah, his moveset, Aleister Black is just outstanding. Adam Cole, excellent as well. These two guys put on a show at Philadelphia, so really enjoyed that match. I thought it was just excellent to watch. I think this match was 100% worthy of TakeOver. Everything about this screamed just, co-main event of a TakeOver. These two guys, if they had the NXT Championship on the line, probably could have main evented, but the NXT Championship was defended later in the show, and justifiably so. So, yeah, Aleister Black, Adam Cole here, just excellent stuff. These two guys, if you haven't seen this match, go and watch it. Genuine, easy 4.5 star match, just without question. These two guys just put in a show, and I loved every second of it. So, I mean, yeah, in the end, Black performed a double knees on Cole through the announce table, and then Black did a Black Mass on Cole for the win. So, that's how the match finished. I thought this was just great. It was just excellent. I mean, Aleister Black overcoming the interferences from Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly during the match, as we'd see with Adam Cole at TakeOver. He, loved the interference from the Undisputed Era, and didn't help him win here. As Aleister Black goes over, he looked really strong in this match, so just another building block for Aleister Black as he goes on his road to NXT Championship glory. And then the main event. I think we all know what this match was, like what this match is, the match to talk about. If you think of NXT TakeOver Philadelphia, you think of this match. Andrade Cien Almas defending the NXT Championship against Johnny Gargano. This match went for 32 minutes and 19 seconds and was just an absolute classic. So much so that Dave Meltzer gave it a 5-star rating, which is the first he gave since Cena and Punk and Money in the Bank. Which I don't think this was the best match since Cena and Punk and Money in the Bank that we've seen in NXT. In this time period, I feel like we've seen some just outstanding matches in NXT, but this match was just special. Yeah, in my opinion, I'd say this is probably the second best TakeOver match I'd seen up to this point, because I'd seen Nakamura and Zayn. I feel like Shinsuke and Zayn was better than this match, but this match just, I'm kind of speechless talking about it. Just, they did everything went right on this night. Like, how they did this, the stuff with Zelina Vega and Candice LeRae late in the match, the storytelling with them, how they worked Johnny Gargano and Almas. You had Almas just pummeling Johnny for like a good bunch of the match, and they did they have the aerial spots littered throughout the match. Gargano flying through the air onto Almas working over Gargano, Almas doing his a couple of flips as well, which is incredibly impressive. Just the match ground and pound for a little bit. You had the aerial stuff put into it, the storytelling, the drama. The crowd was so invested in Philadelphia. Just everything you could want for a match. This had it. In the end, Andrade retained against Johnny Gargano, which interesting to note, but because this was the beginning of Johnny's TakeOver streak, where he'd just be on every TakeOver from now until TakeOver Toronto 2. So he'd be on every TakeOver from now till then, or then till now. Andrade, did he need to win this match? I don't know. You could have had Johnny win here, but then again, Johnny losing here made what happened at TakeOver New York seem so much more special. So from that regard, I think this was the right decision to go. But yeah, so that's what they did there. Andrade going over Johnny Gargano. So that's NXT Takeover Philadelphia. Basically, this show, realistically, is like a 2-match card. Andrade, Johnny Gargano, easy 5-star match. Just incredible stuff. And then Aleister Black, Adam Cole. What they did was just sensational. So give that about 4.5 stars. And the rest of the show was pretty good. So going from there, we move into what many consider the best takeover of all time, and what I consider the second best takeover of all time, NXT Takeover New Orleans. This is the WrestleMania 34 weekend takeover. It took place in the Smoothie King Center in front of 13,955 people. So that's pretty good. This show, well, boy, oh my god, just looking back on this card just makes me smile. Like, to think this show actually went down, like, oh my god. So, I'll go straight to the main event. I'm not going to piss around with the rest of the show. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, unsanctioned match. 37 minutes this went. The storytelling and the storyline these two managed in 2018 was just absolutely, like, I can't even put it into words. It was that damn great. Like, it got even more personal after this. Like, in the build-up to TakeOver Chicago, this got even more personal, and then even more personal going into TakeOver Brooklyn 4, but what they did at TakeOver New Orleans was just, it was something to behold. Like, everything about this, like, as you'll hear, which there's a recurring theme for most of these 5-star TakeOver matches, it's this perfect mix of storytelling, drama, great wrestling, and, like, spots which you think, oh my god. Like, that's kind of the perfect mix for the TakeOver matches. Like, granted, most of these TakeOver matches that are 5 stars have a few too many kickouts, but at the same time, it adds to the match in my eyes. So, and that was just great. This show, I'm going to reference Dave Meltzer again, even though, take his opinions with a grain of salt, but this show gave us 2 5-star matches. So the second and third 5-star matches he'd ever given NXT, which I think is BS. I don't know how Meltzer didn't give Nakamura and Zayn 5 stars, but I mean, we'll forget about that. But yeah, Gargano and Ciampa was the perfect main event. No championship involved in this, which I think helped it. It gave a match earlier in the show even more meaning because, this main event didn't need the NXT Championship. This was all personal, and the crowd was so invested. The crowd was so into this, and it just worked out so well. So, yes, the first of their just epic trilogy between Gargano and Ciampa. Everything about this was just great. That's all I'm going to say. I've talked about this match a fair bit, realistically, but, it was just excellent. And then, so that match was more storytelling, drama, action, and then you had the opener, which was the ladder match to become the inaugural NXT North American Champion, which, right away, I love they introduced the North American Championship into NXT. I feel like it was much needed because for years it was the NXT Championship was the main prize, and then the Tag Team and Women's Championships for those respective divisions, but there was never like a mid-card type of NXT Championship, which the introduction of it here was great. They couldn't have introduced it in any better way. This ladder match with Adam Cole, EC3, Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan, Ricochet, and the Velveteen Dream. Wow. Just thinking back on this, what these guys put themselves through on this night, like, it went for 31 minutes, which is rare for ladder matches, because usually, like, the human body doesn't take more than, like, 20 minutes of ladder abuse, so 31 minutes, the spots in this were just insane. I think they snapped, like, 6 ladders during this match, at least, I think, because I remember just guys crashing through them. I think it was Lars Sullivan or Killian Dane, both went just, smashing through a ladder. Ricochet did some ungodly stuff in this match. Like, he'd stand at the top of the ladder and do some, like, flippy-do move and land on the pack and take everyone out. The Velveteen Dream did his big elbow drop from the top of the ladder. That was a special moment. Just everything about this. And then I love the outcome where they had Adam Cole become the first ever North American champion in NXT. I thought he was the perfect man to become that first ever North American champion. He leaves the mid-card, gives him something meaningful to do, gives him a title, gives him some gold, some glory. The rest of the competitors, EC3, this is a great spot for him to take over. It wasn't a singles match that, really exposed how he's not the most amazing wrestler, but it was a real good spot for him. Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan, much the same as EC3 in that regard. And then Ricochet and the Velveteen Dream, getting them on TakeOver. This kind of match is made for Ricochet, so he can just show off his just ungodly athleticism and ability. So, all round, that was another 5-star match. So, this show, 2 5-star matches, which right there makes it near enough untouchable. And in about probably, I don't know, like half an hour's time, I'll go into why TakeOver New York, in my opinion, top this. But really, I can see why many people say this is the best TakeOver ever. So those are the 2 main matches on this show. And then the rest of the show, we got some more great stuff. It wasn't just 2 5-star matches. We got I'll talk about the Undisputed Era. So Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly defeated the Authors of Pain, Akam and Razor, and Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong in a triple threat tag match for the NXT Tag Team Championship and the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic Trophy. So plenty on the line here. I loved how they booked this because it was triple threat tag. So you had Adam Cole literally get taken out right away because he'd just been in the ladder match earlier on. So his body was in no condition to work another triple threat tag match. So basically Cole got taken out through the announce table. And then you literally had the Authors of Pain going at Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong for most of the match. And Kyle O'Reilly was in and out, taking a few bumps and whatnot. So they're really building that up throughout the match. And then they really did the ending well with Roderick Strong making the turn and then, having Pete Dunne get pinned. Roderick Strong teams with Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish. Undisputed Era becomes 4 guys, which, as Adam Cole talks about, Undisputed Era with Cole, O'Reilly, and Fish, they thought that'd be it. But they added Roderick Strong. He's worked out perfect for that group. He's done bits for them, and to see him join them here was great at the stage of Takeover New Orleans. Perfect moment, perfect time, perfect spot. So it was great to see Roderick Strong join them there. So that was the tag team match. That was in the middle of the show. I mean, other than that, this show gave us even more great stuff. I haven't even talked about the NXT Championship or the NXT Women's Championship yet. That's nuts. The show's given us this much great. 2 5-star matches and, a new member of the Undisputed Era. And I haven't even talked about the NXT Championship or the NXT Women's Championship. So, basically, I'll talk about the NXT Championship now. Aleister Black defeated Andrade Cien Almas. This match got 18 odd minutes. I thought it was excellent. The back and forth, the fight between these two guys. Basically, Aleister Black, he beat Adam Cole at Philadelphia to really build himself up. He defeated Velveteen Dream at Takeover WarGames. So Aleister Black was on this really good run of momentum. They really culminated with this Takeover New Orleans moment where he won the NXT Championship. Andrade, he held the title for whatever since he beat Drew McIntyre at WarGames. So he's held the title about 5 months at this point. He's had a pretty good reign with the belt. He had that match with Gargano, which I talked about in a decent amount of detail. So you get to this match, Takeover New Orleans. Aleister Black was primed, ready to go to win the championship. That's what he did. This could have, on any other show, main evented, but not New Orleans or Takeover New York. These shows were just, the main event was just so special. So yeah, Aleister Black, Andrade, great stuff all around. As Aleister Black goes over, not much more to say about that, really. 4.5 stars I would have given it. And then the last match I yet to talk about is Shayna Baszler winning the NXT Women's Championship, which was fairly significant. This was her first reign as champion, kickstarting here. She made Ember Moon TKO, so she locked in the Kirifuda. Locked the Kirifuda clutch in on Ember Moon, TKO win. The match was pretty good. By Shayna Baszler standards, this match was one of the better ones, so it's good to see that. Shayna Baszler, she lost at TakeOver Philadelphia, gets a win here. Good to see that for her. So, yeah, that's TakeOver New Orleans. WrestleMania 34 weekend. This show absolutely crapped all over WrestleMania. WrestleMania 34 was nothing in comparison to this. Some people like WrestleMania 34. I felt like WrestleMania 34 compared to TakeOver New Orleans was just nothing. So, that's the best TakeOver of 2018, just talked about. And then we move on. NXT Takeover Chicago 2. This TakeOver was another ungodly one. This one, I think I had it 4th, or did I put it 5th? It was 4th or 5th on my list of best takeovers ever on my video I made about, what's the best NXT takeover, a couple of weeks ago. I put this 4th or 5th. This show, the only reason this show isn't 3rd is because Mauro Ranallo was doing Showtime Boxing, I believe, at this time, so he wasn't there to call these matches, which if Mauro was there to call that main event, I think it'd probably be the best match in NXT history. God honest, that match was just Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano 2 at a big takeover stage. This match, Tommaso got his win back, but that's not really the story. How they booked it, it wasn't just, Tommaso won, so Gargano was buried. Going in, they did all that personal stuff to build. They had the wedding ring stuff, and they had, Tommaso getting really, too up close and personal with Candice LeRae. And they were bringing up, the backstory of Ciampa, Gargano, LeRae, and everything that's gone into this, and DIY and whatnot, so you get to this Chicago street fight, went 35 minutes, was an absolute war. These guys just beat the crap out of each other for 35 minutes. I think what they did, so the first 25 minutes of the match was just a fight, and then they introduced the handcuffs and the spot where Gargano was on the crates and he drove Ciampa to the floor through 2 tables, and that was the big halting moment in the match. So they had the stuff with Ciampa in the wedding ring and just everything with this, the storytelling mixed with the violence was just, it's just wrestling. It's everything you can want from pro wrestling. So this match is one of the best they've ever done at a TakeOver. I feel like this match is just the way they ended it as well. Like the two guys, after like 32 minutes of just fighting, they got back into the ring. Ciampa was handcuffed. Gargano was like super kicking away at him. They went up to the top rope, and then they end up doing the big move. They land on like the wooden boards at the base of the ring. So the ring's all ripped up. It's just this absolute mess. In the end, Ciampa with the handcuffs behind his back falls on Gargano. 1, 2, 3. Tommaso Ciampa gets the win at the end of TakeOver Chicago 2. Just an epic moment. If Morrow was calling that, as I said, it'd probably be the greatest moment in TakeOver history, but Morrow wasn't there, and well, as a result, we got what we got, where it was incredible, but it could have been that little bit better. So, yes, that was that. I mean, other than that, this show, TakeOver Chicago 2, wasn't like it was a bad show. I mean, we got Ricochet and the Velveteen Dream for 22 minutes, which should have been 5 stars, but it was only 4.5 in my opinion. Velveteen really purposely slowed the match down the first, bit over half. The chin locks and the slow-paced offense. Like, the Velveteen Dream, he was dressed as, Hulk Hogan for this, which was absolutely hilarious. You've got to love the Velveteen Dream. His entrance was great. He's wearing the Hogan gear. Ricochet was just hilarious here. The storyline going in was great. The action in the match, after that first half where Velveteen slowed the match down, it just picked up so much. The flying elbow drops in Velveteen Dream, Ricochet doing Ricochet things, which that sums up Ricochet Takeover, just Ricochet doing Ricochet things, and it was just excellent. So, yeah, Ricochet and the Velveteen Dream, sensational stuff here. And then also on this show, the thing with this show, no Mauro Ranallo, there was no Adam Cole on this show, in the match. I know I'm forgetting a couple of other people who weren't even on this show, but this show was missing plenty of NXT talent, but it was still insane. And then also on this show, so Aleister Black retained his NXT Championship against Lars Sullivan. I mean, Aleister Black got a pretty good match out of Lars Sullivan. This was a genuine 4-star match. Was it absolutely insane, ungodly? No, but Aleister Black got a good match out of Lars Sullivan, so that's all you could really want from that. And so that was the NXT Championship. Other than that, Shayna Baszler and Nikki Cross, they had a good little 9-minute match. That was more so selling Nikki Cross and being crazy and how she'd fight out the Kirifuda. That's all that match was. So not really much to say about that. And then the opener was really surprising. Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan made a takeover, which interesting. They're taking on Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong with the Undisputed Era. So taking them on, I thought what they did was great. The storytelling with this, the drama, this went for 16 minutes, genuine 4.25-star match. The action was excellent. Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan never looked this good in their whole career outside of this moment. So that was great. And all in all, that was TakeOver Chicago 2. This show took place June 16th, 2018. All-State Arena, 11,000 people in Rosemont, Illinois. Basically, this show, it's mainly remembered for that epic between Tommaso and Johnny, which their second match was, insane. I mean, that ending with Ciampa doing a DDT on Gargano and the exposed floorboards was just a perfect ending. Just utterly incredible storytelling. The rest of the show was just excellent as well. The opening tag match was really surprising. Ricochet and the Velveteen Dream, I loved. The match could have been a little bit better, but I loved what they did. And then the stuff with Shayna and Nikki Cross I really enjoyed, and Aleister Black, Lars Sullivan I was entertained by. So that's TakeOver Chicago 2, and then we move on. NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4. This show, the fourth show at the Barclays Center, this 14,676 people in attendance. This show, obviously, just August 18th, 2018, excellent show. I think I had this 5th. Yeah, I had this 5th on my top 5. So I meant, it's Chicago 2 at number 4. What they did in this match was this show was just something to behold. I loved how they booked this as well. From top to bottom, it was great. We opened the show, Undisputed Era, so Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong retaining their tag team championships over Mustache Mountain. Mustache Mountain were great tag team to watch. Tyler Bate in any capacity is just an extraordinary talent. The things he can do at his age as well. He's 23 now? This match here, he was 22. And then the match he had at TakeOver Chicago against Pete Dunne, he was 21. So Tyler Bate is just absolutely incredible. Mustache Mountain had some outstanding matches. I remember, the ones against the Undisputed Era are just sensational. Mustache Mountain, just on the whole, are just a phenomenal tag team. Mustache Mountain can do just incredible things in the ring. The match here, this was, yet another just outstanding TakeOver opening tag team match. Went for 18 minutes. These teams just went out and put on a show. As we've now seen with the TakeOvers, they had the TakeOver Chicago 2 opener, where it was a great tag team match. Takeover Philadelphia was a great tag team match to open. So they're really building into this formula of great tag team matches to open the takeovers, which I thought was really good, and I thought that trend should, definitely should stay, and pretty much still does to this day. So that's really good. I like what they did there. From here, we moved on to the show. We go Velveteen Dream versus EC3. This match is pretty much the main reason why I don't view this show as like utterly like top 3, because Velveteen EC3, getting the Velveteen on a takeover match is always good. Getting his entrance on the show always makes the show better. But EC3, I said it with the ladder match scene in Takeover New Orleans, he's just not cut out for singles takeover matches. Like some guys aren't, like Adam Cole, Ciampa, Gargano, Ricochet, Velveteen, Pete Dunne, Volta, Tyler Bate, those type of guys, they're cut out for the singles takeover matches. Like those, Aleister Black, Andrade, those types, they cut out for it. Bobby Roode, Shinsuke, Sami Zayn, I'm just listing guys now, but those guys cut out for those singles takeover matches where the spotlight's only on you for 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 minutes, and just put on a show, do the best storytelling you can. EC3 is not made to be that guy, which, I mean, the match here was pretty good. Like, it wasn't anything utterly just outstanding or amazing, but what they did and what they gave us was really good. So, EC3 Velveteen got the win, as you'd expect. It's went 15 minutes as well, which this should have gone no more than 10. I feel like you can distribute, like you could have cut literally like 8 minutes off this and given all of those minutes to Ricochet versus Adam Cole, which came next. This was the NXT North American Championship. The match itself got 15 minutes and was just like a masterpiece of what they managed. I feel like if this match, as I said, got those like 8 extra minutes from the EC3 against Velveteen Dream match, it could have been just another level, but didn't end up coming to be, so that was a bit frustrating. But yeah, for what we got, Ricochet and Adam Cole just put on a show. Ricochet went over and won the North American Championship, which was much deserved. Ricochet in NXT, he definitely deserved a championship, which he got here. So I thought I was really entertained by that. Ricochet and Adam Cole, these two, if you haven't seen this match, go out and watch it. This just great match. Just these two guys. Adam Cole is just a top tier performer. So is Ricochet. Great stuff here. So that was the North American Championship. They did the stuff the Women's Championship. Kairi Sane defeating Shayna Baszler. This is one of Shayna Baszler's better takeover matches. Like, I think this match, Kairi Sane brought a lot out of Shayna Baszler, because Kairi Sane, how she wrestles, really makes it seem like when she has a fight back, it's really like, legit and gets you like engaged. So when she fought out the Kirifuda clutch, it was just this big moment. In the end, though, she got the win, which was great. Shayna hardly loses a takeover. Like, she took the loss at Philadelphia on her first takeover and takes a loss here. But after this, I think she'd lose the takeover again. So interesting to see that. And then the main event, the last man standing match, the NXT Championship. This was just, plus we saw this a year later with Gargano and Cole, but this final third match in the trilogy, the big blow off to the feud, that kind of match. I mean, is it overkill at points? This match wasn't as good as the other two. Granted, it was still 4 3/4 stars in my eyes, but it wasn't as good as New Orleans or Chicago 2. And I pretty much put that down to just by the time you get to this third match, it has to just be I don't know what you can really do, because you've told the very similar story in the first two matches, as Gargano and Ciampa did. That match in New Orleans, perfect. The match at Chicago 2, perfect. The match, by the time you get to this, granted, it was just excellent, near perfect match, but just some of the luster kind of wears off. This went for 33 more minutes, so just another half an hour plus epic between Ciampa and Gargano. This time was the NXT Championship, though, which, personally, having this for the NXT Championship, I don't feel it needed a championship, but it added an extra dimension to it, so I guess that's what they went for. The last man standing stipulation, it made the ending kind of, whatever. I didn't really like the ending. How they did it, where both guys, on the ground, and Ciampa just got up, and, the way they executed it on the night, I didn't love, but nevertheless, Ciampa Gargano was great. So the third match in that trilogy certainly delivered, in my opinion, and it was just great all round. So yeah, I mean, that's TakeOver Brooklyn. When you really look at this show, Brooklyn 4, what it meant, the opener with Mustache Mountain having a great tag team championship match but going down to Undisputed Era, Velveteen Dream EC3, that was just Velveteen getting another TakeOver victory under his belt, as well as EC3 showcasing no one why he doesn't deserve to be in the TakeOver singles matches. Ricochet and Adam Cole, epic match. New champion for North American Championship crown as Ricochet gets the win. Kairi Sane, Shayna Baszler, pretty damn good. Kairi Sane getting the win, beating Shayna Baszler to become the new women's champion. From that regard, it was really good. And then the main event, Ciampa Gargano, what more can you say? Those guys just put on epics. So Let's take over Brooklyn 4. We'll keep going through 2018. We're about to get the last takeover of 2018 here, guys. So, NXT Takeover WarGames II. This show, I believe I had it number 3 on my best takeovers of all time video. This was just... Jeez, this took place in the Staples Center in front of 13,598 fans, November 17th, 2018. Where to begin with this? This show... So the opening match, I'll get this out of the way quickly. Matt Riddle beat Cassius Ohno after hitting him with a knee strike and pinned him. So that took 6 seconds, which that's harmless, that's pain-free, moving right along. We get to this. So it was basically a 4-match show because of what happened with Riddle and Ohno. So Matt Riddle's takeover debut there. He got his little quick win over Cassius, so that's fine and good. And then we move on. So we got Shayna Baszler's best takeover match, her 2 out of 3 falls match versus Kairi Sane, where Shayna won 2-1. This was, definitely Shayna Baszler's best takeover match in my opinion. She ended up winning 2 falls to 1. Kairi Sane always just brought a good match out of Shayna Baszler, so shout out to Kairi Sane for that. Shayna delivered on these 2 takeovers at WarGames in Brooklyn 4. I really was entertained by what she did here, so it was great to see Shayna go over and retain her title because Shayna, she beat Kairi Sane at the Evolution pay-per-view like 3 weeks earlier, so to see you get the win here and retain was good. I was a big fan of that. And then we moved on with the show. The last 3 matches just... Jeez. I mean, I look back on this show and just think, I want to go watch this again, like, as soon as I finish recording this video. Like, I just want to go back and watch these matches again and again. Aleister Black versus Johnny Gargano. Literally my 2 favorite NXT talents going at it here. Aleister Black, just... special. Johnny Gargano, special. One-on-one singles match here at TakeOver. Interestingly, Aleister Black defeated Gargano, so another loss for Johnny at a TakeOver. Really just building on that Gargano at TakeOver just isn't a big-time performer. Like, he'll win the absolute biggest stage matches, like the WrestleMania weekends, but pretty much every other TakeOver, Johnny's lost, which I find interesting to look back on. It's just his story arc. Like, you're still out with Sami Zayn, as I talked about earlier in the video, where in 2014, he won his matches sparingly. Like, he won on NXT TV. Neville would win a TakeOver, then finally had his moment at ArRival against Neville. Same with Gargano, really. He had his big moments in New Orleans and New York, which are kind of what made the show so great. And then everything else, Gargano he'd go down valiantly in defeat. So here with Aleister Black, that is exactly what we got with Tommaso Ciampa. That feud had been done. So you got Aleister Black versus Gargano. The storyline wasn't the best, but the match was excellent. So that's all you could really want from those two. So from that regard, I really enjoyed it. And then we moved on with the show, and we got a great match between Tommaso Ciampa and the Velveteen Dream. Now, Velveteen challenging Tommaso for the NXT Championship. You pretty much knew that Velveteen wasn't going to win the championship here, but, I mean, nevertheless, we got a great match out of it. Tommaso Ciampa, Velveteen Dream. Tommaso, as a champion, was just great. The amount of hate he got was excellent. Velveteen Dream at TakeOver. Yet another just incredible entrance from the Velveteen Dream. Love his theme song on the TakeOver stage with a big grand entrance. All the the perks and everything goes along with wrestling, the pop and circumstance. It just worked really well. So that was great to see. Tommaso Ciampa and the Velveteen Dream. These guys just worked really well. I enjoyed the match. I was entertained by it. So that's what we got there. NXT Championship. Ciampa retains. Definitely go out of your way to see that. And then we got the main event. The best WarGames match they've ever done. Just, my God. This Undisputed Era, so all 4 members, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roderick Strong, taking on a weird team, but one that just delivered big time. So Pete Dunne, Ricochet and the War Raiders, Hanson and Rowe. Obviously, Ricochet in the match to have the big high spots and that epic ending. Pete Dunne in the match as well. War Raiders, they were great because they threw themselves around in this match. They weren't afraid of anything. So, what can I say about this that I haven't said already? This was just absolutely ungodly. The things these guys did to each other was just brutal. It was such an entertaining match. I loved watching it. These guys they had no regard for their own life during this match. Some of the spots was just insane. They really built on what they did WarGames I in 2017. They made this even better, which, God, I don't know how they did it, but especially that ending, I feel really contributes. All the guys make the big pile up, and then Ricochet stands at the top of the cage, takes his breath, and then just does the big, dive off the top of the cage onto all the guys. It was an incredible visual, and that was what did it. Pete Dunne, Ricochet, and the War Raiders going over the Undisputed Era. I think this WarGames match, I don't think they were ever going to top it, in my opinion. It was just that, I can't say anything negative about it. It was that great. Honestly. Just everything about this. If you haven't seen this WarGames match, go out and watch it. you really should just go out and check this match. So, I mean, yeah, that was WarGames. That match got 47 minutes, 10 seconds, the longest match at a takeover they've ever done. So, yeah, I mean, go out and see it if you haven't already. But yeah, like, that's that match. That's NXT WarGames II, NXT Takeovers in 2018, which is a different tier. They were so great. Like, Takeover New Orleans, Takeover WarGames, those shows especially were just different tier. Takeover Chicago, Takeover Brooklyn were, in my opinion, the 4th and 5th best takeovers ever. And then Takeover Philadelphia gave us 2 incredible like main events. So when you look at it that way, the 5 takeovers we got in 2018 were just like absolutely, on the whole, utterly incredible. And NXT should be so proud of what they produced in 2018. Whether they topped it in 2019, well, like, I didn't ever think they were going to be able to top it, but, I feel like they did pretty well to try in 2019. Like, it was actually just sick. So, I mean, we'll move on. I'll stop wasting guys' time. We're nearly at the 2-hour mark, so I'll just pump right through these last 5 takeovers. Basically, NXT Takeover Phoenix. Now, this show, many people really like this show. This one, it was a bit of a weird one for me, because this is Royal Rumble weekend 2019, Phoenix, Arizona, from the Talking Stick Resort Arena, so where the Phoenix Suns play, January 26th, as I said. This was, like, I don't know. To me, the 2 main matches on this show I thought were excellent. And then we also got a great tag team opener. The women's championship match I didn't really think was incredible. Matt Riddle, Cassius Ohno fought again at a takeover, so it was what it was. Basically, the main event of this show was Tommaso Ciampa and Aleister Black, which certainly deserved a main event. Both of those guys had insane 2018s in NXT. Them two and Gargano really carried the brand of NXT in 2018, and to see them open up 2019 with this great match between Ciampa and Aleister Black, I love watching it. Just the demeanor of both men was just, on this night, was just insane. Ciampa's always like that at TakeOver, like especially when he'd make the entrances against Johnny, and then they have no theme music and the crowd would just be chanting "F you, Ciampa," and like that was just flawless pro wrestling. Aleister Black, his entrance is always sick, where he does he kind of like resurrects in the smoke and all the candles, and he like walks menacingly. Like, that was great. So you get the big NXT Championship match here. 26 minutes this went. Really good match. 4.5 stars. It was just a great main event. Nothing really more to say. So that was really good. And then we've got Johnny Gargano Ricochet. That's the main match everyone remembers from this show. We went 24 minutes. This was just like, I don't know. This was the type of pro wrestling that it's the exact opposite of your two. It's the opposite of Big Show Kane in every regard. It's two agile, hyper athletic, just incredibly talented, like independent performers historically, just going at it and putting on this just excellent show in front of the crowd in Phoenix. Like, these two guys should have been so proud of this match. I believe they were. Just everything they did with this. The North American Championship up for grabs. Ricochet defending as Johnny. This was the first of 2 big moments for Johnny Gargano in 2019. Like, kicking his year off by defeating Ricochet in this match that was absolutely incredible. If for some reason you haven't seen this, go out and watch it right now. Like, click off the video, go out and watch Johnny Gargano versus Ricochet at TakeOver Phoenix, because everything they did was just so great. I really love what they did. Just, I don't even know what more there is to say. Like, it went 24 minutes. If this match went 5-8 minutes less, it would have been nowhere near as good. I think the timing really benefited it, so I mean, that's good to see. But yeah, like Johnny and Ricochet, just excellent. So this show is pretty much the two matches I've just talked about. The rest of this show, I didn't really like. Yeah, War Raiders versus Undisputed Era. Having the War Raiders, Hanson and Road defeating the Undisputed Era to win the tag team championships. That was really good. 17-minute tag match. As I've been talking about, the tag matches to open the takeovers have been great. Like, they've been probably the best part of the first half of the takeovers primarily. Like, these matches they do to open. In this case, War Raiders versus Undisputed Era. The same thing as Undisputed Era versus Mustache Mountain, or Undisputed Era versus the Authors of Pain. Like, these opening tag matches were just sensational, and to see this here, War Raiders get their big win. 2019 is supposed to be their year in the tag team division of NXT, but then the main roster saw them, and the main roster had to have the War Raiders, so that's disappointing for the main roster, because the main roster is just terrible. So War Raiders get the win here. Other than those 3, just colossal matches. I mean, Matt Riddle beat Cassius Ohno in 9 minutes, so another victory for Matt Riddle at TakeOver. Okay, good match, nothing incredible. And then Shayna Baszler defeated Bianca Belair by TKO after 15 minutes. This was really entertaining. I thought Belair, because she's so strong, like ridiculous. So the way she like power out of the Kirifuda was just great to watch. I think that made for excellent viewing. I really enjoyed what they did with that. But yeah, so that was NXT Takeover Phoenix. Really good stuff all around, and I mean, yeah, good way to kick off 2019. That match with Gargano and Ricochet especially, that was the main takeaway. Johnny having his big moment at a takeover. And then you had the stuff with Tommaso Ciampa and Aleister Black, which Tommaso getting the win there, excellent stuff again. So by this point, you had Tommaso and Johnny. They were really trying to like reconcile, and they had that shot on the stage where Tommaso was holding the NXT Championship and Johnny was holding the North American Championship. So really trying to build towards that final blow-off match at Takeover New York, which I don't know whether I'm happy they didn't do that in the end, because what I'm about to talk about that they ended up doing was just truly special, the Takeover New York. So yeah, that was that. As I said, yeah, the rest of the show, I mean, Matt Riddle and Shayna Baszler's matches, whatever. And then War Raiders Undisputed Era was sick. So that was great. And then we move on. A few deep breaths, this one, boys. NXT Takeover New York. This one is the fourth final takeover I have to talk about for this. And, well, wow. NXT Takeover New York. I don't know whether to keep this brief or go into immense detail, because I've talked about this show so much. I've already talked about this in the show, I think, like 5 videos. Like, every time I talk about Gargano and Cole, I'll bring up how great this show was. Every time I talk about best wrestling shows of, X time period, I'll bring this show up. I find a way to talk about this show all the time, and, I mean, it deserves it. I think this show is just the perfect wrestling show. This and New Orleans are just the best. I mean, it's just the best wrestling. I don't know. Honestly, I feel like just moving on, because I don't know what more there is to be said. I'll just run through this card fairly briefly, because I've already talked about this so many times. Gargano and Adam Cole, 2 out of 3 falls match NXT Championship. Perfect match. Everything this match had, storytelling, action, drama. The stuff they did where Adam Cole won the first fall, and then Johnny Gargano fought back, overcame all the obstacles. Because the thing with this, Gargano came out wearing the Iron Man attire, which was so sick. It summed up how he performed on this night. Adam Cole, he's such a cool heel. Like, you don't like hate Adam Cole, but you boo him, but you don't like hate him. Which that's the magic of Adam Cole. He just put on a masterpiece here. This is going to be Gargano versus Ciampa in like the final like big takeover match, where Gargano would have finally beaten Ciampa to win the NXT Championship. It would have been this sick moment. Personally, I'm almost happy they didn't go with that, because I think everything they did on this night was just flawless. Having the Undisputed Era get involved in that third fall, making utter chaos. Gargano overcame all the odds. He kicked out of the high low. He kicked out of the last shot knee strike. Like, it was just pro wrestling, really. 38 minutes this went. It was perfect. That's all I have to say. It was perfect. Gargano finally won the championship. He defeated Adam Cole, made Adam Cole tap. His Cole was just outstanding. Like how the dreams come true for a boy from Cleveland, that type of thing. And Candice LeRae rushed down, hugged Johnny. This is his big moment after all those takeovers I've been talking about the last 2 hours, where Johnny teamed with Ciampa and they take losses at takeovers. Johnny would go to singles and he'd lose like a bunch of his takeover matches. He'd lose to Andrade. He'd lose to Aleister Black. He'd lose to pretty much everyone. Lost to Ciampa twice. The only real major wins, like Gargano teamed with Ciampa and DIY, and they won like the one match that they beat the Revival once, I believe. They had the match where they had Gargano. He defeated obviously Ciampa in New Orleans. Gargano defeated Ricochet to open 2019 to win the North American Championship at Takeover Phoenix, and then he has this big win here. So Gargano's takeover record is far less. There's not great. I think he's like 4 and like at this point he's like 4 and like 8. I think something like that. So. Yeah, a lot of losses for Johnny at TakeOver, but it was all worth it for this moment. I think Johnny he was the peak of the wrestling world here. I mean, like honestly, like Dave Meltzer, as far as star ratings go, not that his opinion really matters, but for this show, he gave 4.5 stars for both the NXT Tag Team Championship and NXT North American Championship matches, which I thought was justified. 4.75 stars to 4.75 for Walter and Pete Dunne. I thought that was 5 stars. 3.75 or 3 3/4 for the Women's Championship, and then 5.5 stars. 5.5 stars with Gargano and Cole, which apparently is the first time that rating was ever given to a WWE match, which I think that just sums up everything about this. So like this show just, I mean, I listed the ratings there, but yes, there was that main event, which was just, it was just breathtaking. And then you had Walter versus Pete Dunne in a match that I put, I think, fourth for match of the year for 2019 on my list, which I put out like 2 days ago. Walter and Pete Dunne was just special. Like, Walter is just incredible. Pete Dunne is a great takeover performer. Like, Pete Dunne had the match against Tyler Bate at the first Chicago show, which that's definitely worth going back and watching if you haven't seen it. Or, like, if you have, but go back and watch it again. This match here for the UK Championship, Walter, he was really, like, new into the company at this point, and it was clear where they were taking, like, NXT UK with Walter as the big face. Because, I mean, Walter was the face of, the UK scene for the Indies, and he, gets this big match on the Takeover New York stage, delivers well and truly, puts on this excellent match with Pete Dunne. Walter ends up getting the victory, so Walter ends Pete Dunne's 600 plus day reign as UK champion. Love what they did with that. So, I mean, that was the two main matches in my opinion. And then, with that being said, we get War Raiders versus Aleister Black and Ricochet to open the show, which is a match that I've seen people put in their top 10 for match of the year. Like, that's how great this match was as well. Like, the emotion that went into this, because the War Raiders, like, going in such momentum, taking on Aleister Black and Ricochet, who won the Dusty Classic, which I love what they did with this, because Aleister Black and Ricochet, like, you weren't really going to have them on TakeOver if you didn't put them together as a tag team, so they made the tag team, won the Dusty Classic, had them win that, and take on the NXT Tag Team Champions, War Raiders here, and it couldn't have worked out any better. Having the War Raiders go over just made the emotional farewell for Aleister Black and Ricochet so good. Like, Aleister Black and Ricochet were on NXT, Raw, and SmackDown at this stage. They were just their big farewell in NXT, and I mean, they were really missed in my opinion. Like, having their big call up take place here, I mean, that was just something else. And then also just randomly, you had Velveteen Dream versus Matt Riddle, which was a match that was utterly excellent. That got 17.5 minutes. North American Championship on the line. The Velveteen Dream is the champion, defending against Matt Riddle. This was just the perfect spot for both men. Matt Riddle, deserving this big takeover moment and having a big championship match. Velveteen Dream, obviously, I've said it once, I'll say it again and again and again. His takeover entrance is a special. Velveteen Dream at the takeover stage is made for it, so I thought it was great to see him there. He performed really well. That's all you could really want from the Velveteen Dream. As Dave Meltzer gave this 4.5 stars, I gave this 4.25. I just thought it was epic. But yeah, so that was that. And then we go on to the final match, Shayna Baszler and the Fatal 4-Way with Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, and Kairi Sane. This is the perfect thing to do for the women. They didn't have just a Shayna Baszler versus, say, Kairi Sane match again. They did Shayna Baszler against 3 opponents, which made the match better because Shayna singles matches at TakeOver are never the best, but this, what they did here was just great. So, yeah, that was TakeOver New York. Just the perfect wrestling show, 10 out of 10, A++, just everything about this show. It's the kind of thing, if someone's not a fan of wrestling, show them this, and they'll become a fan of at least NXT. I mean, if they have no clue about what pro wrestling is, then you show them this, and they watch Monday Night Raw, they'd be like, what the hell? Like, they'd be so confused. But realistically, this show is just perfect. And then after this, NXT really changed. Like, after this show, NXT, Aleister Black and Ricochet, they moved on. So they were gone. We didn't see Walter on a takeover, again, for, American takeovers. Pete Dunne, we didn't really see him, much on NXT. He was between NXT UK and NXT, just, drifting around. Velveteen Matt Riddle were obviously staying. The women's division was still on fire at this point. And then Johnny and Cole were the main story. So that was NXT Takeover New York. Yeah, that was from the Barclays Center again. 15,697 from there, April 5th, 2019. That was epic. And then we move on. Takeover 25. Boys, we've made 25 takeovers. If you're still here, then just God bless you. We're over 2 hours into this video. Just insane stuff. Basically, this show, Takeover 25, June 1st, 2019, this took place, which this was this a day or two after All Out? Or was this the day after All Out? I don't know. Not All Out. Double or Nothing, the AEW. So, perhaps AEW just did their Double or Nothing show. All the hype was around AEW. All the noise and the discussion and the talk is about AEW. And then NXT go out and deliver this show, which, granted, on the whole, it was like a 9 out of 10 takeover in my opinion. There weren't any matches which I thought were just absolutely ungodly must-see. Cole and Gargano in the main event was just excellent. Don't get me wrong. It was just a sensational match, but I don't feel like it was as good as their match that they'd have at Toronto 2 or their match from New York. So in that regard, I think it was just, it's all right. And yeah, saying that, I review this show much the same way I look at Brooklyn 4. Like, some just excellent stuff just from top to bottom, but as a show, I don't view this the same way I view, like, Takeover New York, New Orleans, WarGames II, Chicago 2, that kind of thing. So, anyway, that being said, they opened the show, Matt Riddle and Roderick Strong. This was just an excellent match. Singles match, nothing on the line, but just an absolute fight. Matt Riddle getting the win was great. These two, it was a direct shot at AEW, especially. Like, this was how NXT came out, opened their takeover show. I think this is the first standalone takeover, I believe. I think it was. Or, no, it's probably not, but I'm pretty sure it was the first standalone takeover, which is significant for NXT. So, they did this. And then they had the stuff where Street Profits took on Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, the Undisputed Era, and then the Forgotten Sons in a Fatal 4-Way ladder match for the vacant NXT Tag Team Championships. The Tag Team Championships got vacated by the War Raiders because they moved up to the main roster. So you were left with this Fatal 4-Way, and oh my god, this was just... NXT put this as like third for their match of the year, which, I mean, I don't agree with that. Actually, I can see kind of why they would, to be honest. It was just an excellent match. Just what they did was just sensational. I gave this 4.5 stars in the end. To be honest, I think I gave Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong 4.25. I think just the Street Profits, Oney Lorcan, Burch, the Undisputed Era, and Forgotten Sons put an absolute clinic in the ladder match. Like, it wasn't as good as the ladder match to open Takeover New Orleans, but I don't think any ladder match just about is in the history of the company. That's how great that first ladder match was, but I mean, nevertheless, the stuff they did here was just excellent. The ladder spots, the violence, the drama, it just all worked. It was all great. So that was the ladder match. The rest of the show, like, outside the main event, Velveteen Dream, Tyler Breeze, good, not great. Like, this was... I mean, what did Dave Meltzer give this? 3 3/4. I gave this, like, 3.5, I think. Like, I didn't love this, to be honest. Velveteen, Tyler Breeze, like, I can see what they were going for. Like, the gimmicks work as, like, a kind of... Like, how they meshed... It meshed well, but the in-ring action I didn't love. Velveteen Dream, I'm not going to say what I've said again. He's just incredible. Good win for him in a takeover. Tyler Breeze, his little NXT comeback here. The main reason they had Tyler Breeze come back was because they needed, like, just anyone, because NXT was gutted after the WrestleMania 35 weekend, so having Tyler Breeze here was good. And then you had Shayna Baszler versus Io Shirai, really fun women's match. Shayna Baszler retaining again. I'd gave this, like, 3 3/4, I think. This is one of Shayna's better matches. Like, in my opinion, Shayna Baszler's best match is probably the Kairi Sane 2 out of 3 falls, and then this one would be top 3 for Shayna Baszler at TakeOver, so... That's good. And then, yeah, the main event where Adam Cole defeated Johnny Gargano to win the NXT Championship. This was the only singles match these two guys would have because the rest of them were 2 out of 3 falls, which I think the fact that this was singles, it kind of hurt the match, in my opinion, just because it was 1 fall to a finish. Like, I'm so used to the 3 falls with them, so 1 fall to a finish. Adam Cole wins the championship. It's kind of annoying Johnny Gargano's, like, only NXT Championship reign was so short, but then he had to capitalize on how hot Adam Cole was, so I guess I'm fine with it, looking back, and yeah, so... That was NXT TakeOver 25. We're on the home stretch, guys. We only have 2 more takeovers left. So moving in, NXT TakeOver Toronto 2. This show took place August 10th, 2019, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, in the Scotiabank Arena. 13,735 people showed up to this show. Great night of wrestling here. This was just excellent. Morrow was great on commentary throughout this, as he was in every show he did. Basically, the thing with this show was that, I mean, this and WarGames III were the same in this regard. It's that, I mean, granted, the matches, like, it was consistently great matches, like, just in general. That's literally, it was just great matches. Like, we opened the Street Profits against Undisputed Era for the Tag Team Championships. This harkens back to what I've been talking about for literally the last hour, where the TakeOver Tag Team openers are just great. Like, everything about this was just really good. The Street Profits, they had so much energy, and probably their best, like, regulation tag team match they ever did. The Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, they'd been around for ages by this point in NXT. This match, Street Profits retained, and then they'd lose the titles, like, I think, like, 2 weeks later on NXT. So, yeah, good stuff. Street Profits getting the win. Good opener. 17 minutes this went. Really good. And then from here, we got Io Shirai versus Candice LeRae, which... This was a really surprising match. Like, they gave this the TakeOver spotlight. Going in, I was like, I don't know about this. And then they got 15 minutes and put on an absolute killer match. Like, a genuine 4.5 star match. Like I'm serious. It was that great. Like, I didn't think they'd do that going in with Io Shirai and Candice LeRae. Like, it felt kind of thrown on the card. It felt like the 5th match, you know what I mean? Like, it was the match you were least, like, looking forward to. But on the night, it just certainly delivered beyond belief, so... Just excellent. Io Shirai ended up going over Candice LeRae by TKO. Both women look like superstars in this night. This really helped like build up the women's division, giving 2 women's matches on the Takeover show and having this match be so great. So I thought that was excellent. And then you had Velveteen Dream against Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong in a triple threat for the North American Championship. This was great. This was so fun to watch. Velveteen Dream getting another win at TakeOver, retaining the North American Championship. I could watch Velveteen Dream TakeOver entrances for like an hour on end. Pete Dunne, Roderick Strong, getting them on the TakeOver. They made this a really fun match. I think I gave this like 4.5 stars. Like the first 3 matches on this show were all like 4.25 to 4.5, which is really good. And then the match which really brought this show down, and the match which made me look back on Toronto 2 in a more negative light, Shayna Baszler against Mia Yim. I didn't love this at all. This was not good. This is probably the worst match they've done at TakeOver in, God knows, in ages. Like, this was bad. This went for 15 minutes, and Mia Yim was boring as hell. They gave Mia Yim the TakeOver spotlight against Shayna. Like, didn't love that decision. Did not love that decision. I don't know what else they could have done. Like, I'm trying to remember, because they could have put Candice LeRae against Shayna, but then we wouldn't have got Io versus LeRae, so I guess this Shayna Baszler beat Mia Yim by submission. I didn't really care. Whatever. And then the main event, Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano, 2 out of 3 falls in the NXT Championship. I don't view this as 2 out of 3 falls. I view this as 3 stages of hell, because that's what this match was. Because the first fall they did a singles match, which was Adam Cole's choosing in the stipulation. Second fall they did a street fight, which Johnny chose. And the third fall was a barbed wire steel cage match, which, like, in my opinion, I feel as though, the whole barbed wire steel cage thing was just overkill. That was ridiculous. I can see what they were going for with the big, culminatory ending to the feud, but that was ridiculous. They didn't need to do that. That was overkill. And, like, but some people put this match is better than New York. And that ending bump with Adam Cole and Gargano flying off the top of the cage, just crashing through tables, like, it was the first of 2 consecutive takeovers during 2019 where that was, like, the final spot of the show. So, I mean, was it required? No. Was it overkill? Yes. Did I enjoy the match? Yes. Was it 5 stars? Yes. But was it as good as New York? No. Was it better than 25? Yes. So, that's Adam Cole retains the championship here. This was, in many people's opinion, this is the end of Johnny in NXT. And thank God that wouldn't end up being the case, because Johnny turned down the main roster phone call. Going great for him. Like, why do you want to go to the main roster? Like, you can just be killed and have all your credibility ruined. So, yeah, Adam Cole gets the win here. This match, many people look at it as one of the greatest in NXT history. He went for 46 minutes, which is by far the longest, like, 1v1 match in NXT history. But yes, Adam Cole goes over, 2 falls to 1. All in all, TakeOver Toronto 2. When I look back at this show, Street Profits had their last successful title retention. Io Shirai and Candice LeRae was many people's match of the night. The Velveteen Dream had a great triple threat match against Pete Dunne and Roderick Strong, where he retained the North American Championship. And then the main event with Adam Cole and Johnny. So, great stuff all around. And then we move on, the final takeover, NXT Takeover WarGames III. So, this show took place, the Allstate Arena, Rosemont, Illinois. 10,500 people were there, November 23rd, 2019. This show, the first 4-match takeover they've ever done, and the show went for like 2 hours and 20 minutes. So, I don't know how to feel about this. Basically, this match, 2 WarGames matches, very significant. The first ever women's WarGames match. We had Finn Balor making his first takeover return match in ages. The thing with this is that now that NXT was on USA by this point, which happened October 2nd was their 2-hour debut, and then September 18th was their 1 hour on USA and then 1 hour on WWE Network. So they made the big move to USA. This card was pretty messy because Team Ciampa was supposed to be this card was supposed to be Finn Balor versus Johnny here, and then they were doing Ciampa, Riddle, Dijakovic, Lee, and then in the end, because Riddle used to be in Team Ciampa, Johnny got injured, so Riddle had to take the place of Johnny, so Riddle took on Finn Balor. That was a alright singles match. It was kind of disappointing. I felt like it should have been better. I felt like that match should have just been insane, but it only got 14 minutes. I think one of the guys was sick, I believe. Something like an illness, I think that's what I heard. But yeah, the match just wasn't incredible, so, Finn Balor went over as you'd expect. Finn Balor's takeover record is just exceptional. So Balor won there. And then the other match that wasn't a WarGames match was Pete Dunne against Damian Priest and Killian Dane to determine who faces Adam Cole for the NXT Championship Survivor Series. This, I was really entertained by. It went a few minutes too long, but, I mean, for what we got, it was great. Pete Dunne, Damian Priest, Killian Dane. I thought Damian Priest getting his first takeover match here, he was great. Killian Dane, his first takeover match in a year and a half since that New Orleans ladder match. Pete Dunne, he did really well in this match, and yeah, in the end, we had Pete Dunne going over. the WarGames matches themselves, the men's one, excellent. The women's one, excellent. The story they told with Tegan Nox, Dakota Kai was great. I thought the whole women's matches, like as it was with Rhea Ripley and Candice LeRae, end up winning. I don't know about that, having a 2-on-4 result, but I mean, it put Rhea Ripley over hard, so that was great. That's what we got there with the women's one. And then as for the men's one, I thought stuff with Tommaso Ciampa and Adam Cole, that was great. Having Undisputed Era with the advantage. Like both the heel teams, the women and the men had the advantage, so whatever. The ending with Tommaso Ciampa and the air raid crash to Cole through the table, that was great. So yeah, that was Takeover WarGames II. All in all, just a really good show, but not like top tier. And yeah, that's Takeover. That was all 27 odd takeovers we've seen. I'm talking about all 28 NXT Live Specials. It's been a really fun video. Hopefully you guys have gotten some memories from this, thought about NXT as their evolution has come through these past few years, from their days in 2010, where they were just miserable rookies versus pros, nothing, to the 2012 relaunch under Triple H and Dusty Rhodes, to where it's come from 2014 where they did ArRival, to 2014 with Sami Zayn, and then you had 2015 and everything came with that. Then you had Finn Balor as the champion, then you had Shinsuke made his big debut, and Kevin Owens, and all that good stuff happened in NXT. Then Bayley and Sasha at Brooklyn, and everything that's come along in NXT over the years. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. It's been a marathon to make. I'm not looking forward to having to edit this because it's going to take forever, but it's all for the content, isn't it? So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Even if you watched 5 minutes of this and you just skip to this end bit, whatever, that's all good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This took so long, it took literally 2 hours 20 to record. So, oh well. Hopefully you guys, if you want to go back and watch some of these takeovers because I've talked about them, that's awesome. I'm gonna go back and watch a couple of these takeover matches now. So yeah, see you guys next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, sub, you know the drill. Thanks for watching. See yous.